Okay, we should be live.
Subscribe. Also, if you can think of subscribe. Also, if you can think of any other guys with just ridiculous physiques, do drop it in the comments.
Whoops, that was unfortunate. Don't know how that happened. Okay, we're live, people. Yeah. Just need to post this in all of the Discords. Okay. So yeah, I was gonna talk about some other stuff, but then they start talking about free ports.
We've already seen that the Thames Freeport have suggested that there will be 21,000 jobs directly and indirectly created. So we know that the Welsh Freeport will deliver jobs. But I also agree that it's going to be good for the Union and good for Wales to have vessels of all kinds coming from all over the world, bringing their jobs and investment with them, and perhaps from across the Union. We may even look forward to seeing a few ferries from Scotland if the SNP government can actually get around to building them.
Ha 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 ha. I ain't got it.
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, my ministerial colleagues and I fully acknowledge that there is a cost of living challenge which has been caused by a combination of the COVID-19 pandemic and the war in Ukraine.
And Brexit.
And that is why we're providing £22 billion for households
480p, guys.
across
I can't
the
change
UK
that.
to try and get through this crisis.
Marco Longi. Oh, sorry, Richard.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm a little bit anxious. The people of Newport West are facing the harsh effects of this government's failure to tackle the cost of living crisis. My constituent Hetty, who contacted my office because she's a single mum of two and must choose food or heating, both her cooker and her hot water are gas.
How's the volume? Is the volume good?
So do her bills. She works, in her words, every hour possible. She is scared for her and her children's future, and she is not alone. Local people need to see real action, and if the Tory ministers won't take any fiscal steps, will the minister do what many people in Newport West want and back a windfall tax on oil and gas companies?
Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, taxes are a matter for the Chancellor, but what I can say is that I absolutely acknowledge that there is a challenge at the moment which is being brought about by the international situation, and that's why the government are putting £22 billion aside. That's why they've changed universal credit to help people like your constituent who are out working. Why we changed the minimum wage to increase it. Why national insurance.
Just got word. The Sue Gray report's been published. Ooh, oh, I don't know. I don't know what to do now. Should we have a look? Should we have a look? I'm gonna post this. I'm gonna post this in my server. Oh, should we have a look? Should we have a look? Oh my god, it's here. Do you know what we're going to do? Right, we're going to look for pictures. I'm not going to go through this all today. We're going to have a quick look for pictures. Can we see any pictures? Sweet. Gathering number 10. Oh my god, she's got pictures. Sue Gray's got receipts. There's a few pages of pictures. One picture a page, which is a bit old school. It's very much, I've got certain pages on my presentation to fill out.
Why we've extended the Warm Homes discount and done a whole package of other measures. And the fact of the matter is, Mr.
It's a bit low. Okay. It might be my my volume on my OBS might be a bit loud.
Well, we're spending money helping people get through.
Let me know if I fixed it. If not, I'll turn my volume down a bit.
Spending money buying up farms in mid-Wales and increasing the number of Senedd members.
Michael Longi.
How's that?
6, Mr. Speaker.
Here. Mr. Speaker, the Wales office works very closely with the Department for International Trade to promote the excellent opportunities that there are to invest in Wales. Wales is an attractive destination for foreign companies to...
What assessment has he made of the proposed changes to the voting system at Cardiff Bay?
What we're gonna do is we're gonna ignore this. Can you speak and I'll compare? Okay.
Potential impact.
I will speak. Can you? How's that? Because I've got a couple other things I want to go through. Because PMQs won't start for another like 13 minutes, anyways. Hey, don't be dissing Wales, man. Mark Drakeford's there. I like Mark Drakeford. He's cool. What I was gonna do last week was I was meant to talk about this stuff here. Boris Johnson essentially doing really badly in Northern Ireland. right? And you had loads of stuff come out. He talked about how he didn't expect the EU to apply the protocol in the way that they have done, and some people have taken that out of context, which is really poor journalism and tweetering. But you know, in the end, I've got to cover this nonsense now, don't I? Look at this. Who's he drinking with? Look at all these blurs. You got Supergirl, Shadow, Sonic. You know, you've got all these blurs here, all these speedsters. All these speedsters out here. Like, what is this madness? Everyone's been blurred out. All the rule breaking. You know, you've got this video here.
And that no COVID rules were broken. That if those rules were broken, then there will be disciplinary action for all.
And a lot of the junior ministers, they're annoyed about this. Do you know why? Because they got fined and Boris Johnson didn't. That's why they're all ticked off. That's why they're leaking stuff. There was more I wanted to cover, which is the government are angry that the fuel duty cut wasn't passed on. The government doesn't understand capitalism. So the government has raised concerns that petrol retailers are not passing on the recent cut in fuel duty. I mean, come on, guys. What did you expect? You know, they were never gonna pass this on. We saw this with VAT under Gordon Brown. I remember that. I was like, I can't remember how old I was back then, but it would have been like 2009, I think. You know, I would have been young back then, but I remember them in the news saying that you know, retailers had not passed on the VAT cut. You've got this genius over here from the government telling people to work harder.
We need to have a plan to grow the economy and make sure that people are able to protect themselves better, whether that is by taking on more hours or moving to a better paid job. And these are long-term actions, but that's what we're focused on as a government.
You say taking on more hours. I mean, some people that I've been chatting to, Minister, over the last... I've moved outside, actually, because obviously they need to get ready and get the kids ready for school. You know, some people are working 3 jobs. They're working every hour that God sends them. So, and they're still going to food banks to get food because they can't afford to feed their kids. You know, so it's not as straightforward as that, is it?
No, and of course it's not, and I'm not suggesting that for one moment, but we have often heard in the past when people are facing problems with their budgets that one of the obstacles, and it may not be for everybody, one of the obstacles is about being able to take on more hours or even move to a better paid job. And of course,
but the thing is, like, a lot of people on universal credit and getting government support do work. That's the problem. The system doesn't work. I mean, Max covered it a few days ago. That police officer was told by an accountant that, you know, the best thing for her to do is to leave her job in the police and become, you know, work 22 hours a week and go on universal credit. That's wild. Could you imagine? That's insane, honestly.
of course, it's an individual situation depending on that particular.
So we've got this lady here saying, do more hours or get a new job, right? You've got the Bank of England, Andrew Bailey, calling on workers to reflect carefully about taking a pay rise amid concerns it would trigger more inflation. And everyone must make their own judgment. Andrew Bailey, an absolute fraud. Maybe he should take a pay cut to lower inflation. And then you've got Phil saying, so go and get a better job if you're struggling to make ends meet, but don't accept higher pay because that's bad for the economy. Glad that's cleared up. I mean, like, what the hell, man? Honestly. And then Downing Street have blocked ministers from Sky News over Tory MPs work more hours for all. So Downing Street have basically realised they're in so much trouble they've stopped speaking to certain media outlets. And it's not like Kay Burley's put like some ideological trap here. It's, you know, these ministers, their talking points suck. That's why. Because they don't know how to deal with this. I mean, there's loads of stuff on it to talk about. You know, the government thingy stopping a... who's streaming now? Okay. The government stopping a windfall tax. I mean, the Commons votes by 310 to 248 against Labour's motion to impose a windfall tax. Not a single Conservative MP voted in favour of the tax, even though at some point there will be some sort of windfall tax. Sunak keeps hinting at it. You've got this guy, Mark Harper, Tory MP, saying, I'm fed up with my colleagues who are being asked to go on TV and saying things that are frankly ridiculous to defend the government. I'll be honest, I've been enjoying Sky News recently. No wonder why they blocked them. Yeah, they've been doing all right, but the thing is, it's not hard. You know, people think like journalism's really hard and things like that. Like, asking good questions is not difficult. It's all preparation work. I mean, let's see what this gentleman had to say about it.
What did you think when you saw those images?
How's the audio, by the way? Just let me know if there's any issues, because I'm going between different videos.
Well, I'm afraid the images that we saw, I think, just support the decision that I reached the letter that I wrote to Sir Graham Brady and what I said to the Prime Minister's face in the House of Commons. He broke the rules. That event, I understand there's at least one person at that event that has been fined for attending. So
we understand that too.
It's more than one person I think was fined.
Gathering. And the Prime Minister, however long he was at it, should have sent everyone home.
I mean, it doesn't look very 2 metres, does it? The minimum, but, you know, they have to say this is reasonable for work. I can't see how this is reasonable for work.
But the thing is, it's not just the events, it's the fact that he's not been straightforward about it. I mean, you were on television on Sunday, Joe. You couldn't get a straight answer out of a cabinet minister about whether a meeting happened and who called a meeting between the Prime Minister and Sue Gray. They're not being straight about it, and I'm fed up, and I said this in the House of Commons, with my colleagues...
PM is up. OK, let's go back.
Conservative Club.
Oh, here we go. We'll go back to the other stuff later.
British Sign Language interpretation of proceedings is a very...
Mr. Speaker, I want to begin by...
Here we go.
Echoing what you've just said about the reports of the fatal shooting in a Texan primary school. Our thoughts are with all those affected by this horrific attack. Mr. Speaker, yesterday I welcomed the Emir of Qatar to Downing Street. It's excellent news that Qatar announced it will invest up to £10 billion into the UK.
Who cares?
Through our new strategic investment and others. In addition to my duties in this House, I shall have further...
Emir means like king. The Emir would be like the king or the ruler of Qatar, I'm assuming.
Such meetings later today.
Like a Sheikh Emir. There you go.
Anthony Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Cambridge is one of the most expensive places to live in the country, but unlike many cheaper places, NHS workers in the city get no high cost of living supplement. So NHS workers in Cambridge pay higher rents than NHS workers in outer London boroughs like Redbridge and Croydon and Bexley and Barking, and yet they get paid 15% less.
I think Emir would be okay, or the Emir. I'm not 100% sure. That's something I'll have to check out.
This makes it very difficult for the NHS.
The Emirates, not Emirates. Am I right? The Emir. Emirates. I don't know. That's a tricky one, actually. I'm just thinking about it. I'm not sure if it would be the Emir or the Amir.
Including Adam Brooks Hospital.
To be fair, English people butcher words all the time. Sorry, I'm pausing a lot here.
To retain and recruit staff. Will my right honourable friend, the Prime Minister, work with me to make sure that NHS workers in South Cambridgeshire and Cambridge get paid fairly?
I mean, that's a fine question.
My honourable friend is a fantastic champion for his constituents and for Adam Brooks, and we're very proud.
I'm not going to lie, guys. I'm tempted to just skip it, just to wait until Starmer steps up, because these will be boring questions.
Our NHS and...
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and my thoughts also, and I know the thoughts of the whole
man of the hour,
House,
too sweet to be sour,
are with the families of the victims of yesterday's school shooting in Texas. 19 children have died, some as young as 7, and 2 adults believed to be teachers. It is an unspeakable tragedy, and our hearts are with the American people. Last weekend marked the anniversary of both the Manchester bombing and the murder of Lee Rigby, and we remember them this year as we do every year. And today is also the anniversary of the killing of George Floyd, a reminder that we must all tackle the racism that is still experienced by so many in our country and beyond. Mr. Speaker, the Sue Gray report was published this morning, and I look forward to discussing that during this afternoon's statement with the Prime Minister.
What's that? What's the statement with the Prime Minister? What's that about?
For now, I want to focus on the cost of living affecting the whole country.
It's not a bad attack line to go down, given that he wouldn't have had a chance to read the Sue Gray report.
Mr. Speaker, since we stood here last week and I asked the Prime Minister yet again to back Labour's plans for a windfall tax to reduce energy bills, hundreds of millions of pounds have been added to bills of families across the country, and hundreds of millions of pounds have landed in the bank accounts of energy companies. It sounds like he's finally seen sense, and the inevitable U-turn may finally have arrived. So when can people across the country expect him to use those oil and gas profits to bring down their bills?
Again, it's a fine question. You know, it's going to take time for this stuff to work, to do the windfall tax, to implement the exact percentage and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a good question.
Well, Mr. Speaker, there's nothing original about a Labour plan to tax business. There's nothing...
Highest tax burden since World War II.
Why, they want to tax business the whole time.
You're raising corporation tax, big man. You're raising it to, like, I think it's 22 or 24%.
Labour wants to put up taxes on business, and what we're doing is we're helping people. He asks when we're going to help people. We're helping people now.
It's not enough, you dumbass, when people are telling you that they have to choose between heating and eating. You've already failed, son.
Mr. Speaker, and we're putting £22 billion into people's pockets already, cutting...
You're putting £22 billion into people's pockets. Where's my £22 billion then? You know, when you divide it amongst the population, it's not a lot of money.
Council tax by £150, cutting fuel...
You didn't cut it, that was you have to pay that back.
Cutting national insurance contributions by an average...
You raised national insurance contributions.
Of by an average of £330 for people who pay NICs. And, Mr. Speaker, how can we afford that? Because we have a strong economy, because we came out of COVID fast.
Our economy's not doing very good.
Speaker, which would...
How could you... Excuse me. How can you say we have a strong economy when we're heading towards a recession? Like, whoa, what is this man talking about? We got the Bank of England telling us not to take pay rises because of inflation. Like, what?
Not have been possible if we'd listened to the party opposite.
If we went into lockdown when Labour said, we could have got out of lockdown much quicker in terms of the amount of weeks we were in actual lockdown, and the economy would be in a better place. Like, dude, like, oh. Come on, Keir.
15 tax rises, and he pretends they're a low-tax government.
Nice, very nice.
It's been, Mr. Speaker, it's been 4.5 months since Labour first called for a windfall tax on oil and gas profits.
Has it really been that long? 4.5 months? That's crazy.
I've raised it week in, week out, and every week he has a new reason for not doing it. The Business Secretary said it's bad. The Justice Secretary called it disastrous. Even this weekend, the Health Secretary and the Northern...
Who's adding this commentary on? I'm doing the commentary here. Who's this MP talking in the background?
The Secretary opposed it. He ordered all of his MPs to vote against it last week. And now, surprise, surprise, he's backing it.
Is he? Is he backing it? I've only seen briefings of them hinting at backing it. I haven't seen the actual evidence of it.
Prime Minister, I'm told that hindsight is a wonderful thing.
Nice. Very nice. Very nice.
But Mr. Speaker, whilst he dithered and delayed, households across the country suffered when they didn't need to. What
was that?
Didn't need to. What?
I can't hear what they said. Peter Bone, I'm assuming.
Mr. Bone, a man who always wants to catch my eye is not going the best way to do so. Keir Starmer.
Mr. Speaker, whilst he dithered and delayed, households across the country...
Oh yeah, show actually. Let's see if we can go back. Sorry guys. Let's see, somewhere around here I think.
Whilst he dithered and delayed, households across the country suffered when they didn't need to. What?
No, they didn't catch it. The captions didn't catch it. I'll leave them on just in case anyone wants them.
The best way to do so, Keir Starmer.
It is like a circus.
Mr. Speaker, whilst he dithered and delayed, households across the country suffered when they didn't need to. What is it about the Sue Gray report that first attracted him to a U-turn this week?
That's a great question. You know, what is it about the Sue Gray report that attracted him to it this week? Obvious distraction, but it's a great question.
Mr. Speaker, there is no surprise about Labour's lust. There's no surprise about Labour's lust to put up taxes.
Again, highest tax burden since World War II, but go on.
Nothing original about his...
Oh, this douchebag. I hate this guy so much.
They get off on it. They absolutely love to confiscate other people's assets. What we prefer to do, Mr. Speaker, is make sure...
They don't confiscate them, they redistribute it, so that doesn't make sense.
make sure that we have the measures that are in place to drive investment in our country and drive jobs. And it's thanks to the steps that we took, thanks to the fact that we came out of COVID faster than any other European country, which would not have been possible if we'd listened to
I don't
him.
think that's actually true. I think the Scandinavian countries came out quicker than us. Who's wearing a mask?
That we
Oh,
now
this dude.
have unemployment at the listen to this. They used to care about this, Mr. Speaker. Unemployment at the lowest level since 1974.
But again, unemployment is just one metric to look at. To look at the economy, we have record amounts of vacancies. That's higher than our unemployment. So even if you got all the unemployed people into the vacancies, we'd still have a load of jobs vacancies. That's not good for the economy.
Put that in your pipe.
Keir Starmer.
Put that in your pipe, mate. Exactly. What I just told you, not what he said.
Mr. Speaker, I actually thought with this U-turn he might actually get his head out of the sand, but obviously not.
These
The
captions are not good.
reality is that every day of his dithering and his delay, £53 million has been added to Britain's household bills. Whilst he's distracted trying to save his own job, the country has been counting the cost. But complacency is nothing new for this government. Back in October, the Chancellor delivered a mini-budget that has to be reread to be believed. With inflation already climbing...
Who's talking? Is it Rachel Reeves?
He said that
this?
he understood people were concerned about it and the government was ready to act. Since then, inflation has risen to a 40-year...
Bro, he looks like... one sec.
Government was ready to act.
He looks like he's been told off by his mum and dad or something. What was it? He looks like he's been told off by his parents. I've been there, mate. It happens.
Since then, inflation has risen to a 40-year high, the highest rate of any G7 country.
That's true. We do have that's something I missed out on talking about because the article I was reading was really confusing and didn't make sense. But we do have the highest inflation. Yeah, this lady's on her phone. We have the highest inflation out of any G7 countries. It's wild. We have higher than the average Eurozone country. I think the Netherlands are at 11%, and I don't know how they're coping over there. Genuinely, it's very high.
If the government was so ready to act 6 months ago, why hasn't it?
We've helped families on universal credit have another £1,000.
Old school note taking from quite a few people here. Unless they're doing the crosswords, they could be doing the. I'm not going to say it's the New York Times crossword because that one I think is the most famous one. They could be doing one from the Times. You know, genuinely looks like crossword people. It's not enough, is it? Especially with the fuel stuff. Like the fuel duty cut has not been passed on. Oh, I wonder if they are playing. Oh, mate, could you imagine? I didn't set it up, did I? I'll do it. I think there's a recess. There's a recess coming up, but I'll try and set it up for next time if I remember. Mine would be fastest economy in the G7, out of lockdown quickest. What's it called? Record vaccine rollout. That's what the ones I have.
Of course, we're going to do more, Mr. Speaker. We're going to put our arms around the people of this country, just as we did throughout the COVID pandemic.
I mean, if you're putting your arms around the country like you did during the COVID pandemic, I'd be really nervous because I think we had one of the highest deaths per capita amongst the developed nations, at least. I mean, you know, it's like when you put the protective the protective ring around care homes, right? We had a massive amount of deaths in care homes. So, yeah, I would not be using a phrase like that, big boy.
But the reason we can do that is because we took the tough decisions to drive the fastest vaccine rollout in Europe.
He would have said it. He would have said vaccine rollout. Oh, man.
Wouldn't have been possible if you listened to him, Mr. Speaker, and that's why we have, let me take another statistic, youth unemployment. They used to care about it. Youth unemployment at or near a record low.
He doesn't actually give the percentages.
Mr. Speaker,
at or near a record low. Like, who cares if it's near a record low? Like, it means it's been lower in the past.
It wasn't just the Chancellor. Back in September, the Prime Minister called fears about inflation unfounded. He was the last person to spot the cost of living crisis, just as he's the last person to back Labour's plan to help people through it. And Mr. Speaker, it wasn't just on inflation that they got it badly wrong. In the same speech, the Chancellor boasted about growth. Prime Minister does today. How we were going to do better than all our major competitors. It was obvious that he was being complacent. And lo and behold, Britain is set to have the lowest growth of any major country except Russia. Despite our brilliant businesses and all we have to offer, why has his government inflicted on Britain the twin-headed hydra of the highest inflation and the lowest growth?
Again, he's not mentioned the B word here, which I guess fair enough. He's not even talked about how Liz Truss is causing problems in Northern Ireland. He's going very much after Sunak and Johnson on the cost of living, so I guess that cuts through far more people.
Mr. Speaker, he loves running this country down.
That's a very nice colour suit. I respect that.
How many times?
He didn't run the country down, did he? He said businesses are doing a great job. It's you that are doing a bad job. Is doing a bad job.
How many times did he come to this place? How many times did he come to this place and say that the United Kingdom had the highest COVID death rate in Europe? How many times? He was proved completely wrong. Did he ever apologise, Mr. Speaker? Absolutely not. Did he ever take it back? Absolutely not, Mr. Speaker. Actually, because of the steps we took, last year we had the fastest growth in the G7, and we will return to the fastest growth by 2024, 2025, thanks to the decisions that this government took, Mr. Speaker. And they don't care about getting people into jobs. They don't care. We care about the working people of this country, making sure we have a high wage, high skill, high...
So increase wages then. You know, but you've got the Bank of England chief telling us not to take increased wages. Which one is it? We do have the highest... Is it the highest deaths in Europe?
Employment
per capita.
Economy, and
that's
what
one.
we're delivering.
What's his fourth question?
He talks about running this country down. He is running this country down.
Hey, not bad.
And it wasn't just complacency on Labour's windfall tax, which he's now backing. It wasn't just complacency on inflation, which is now through the roof. And it wasn't just complacency on growth, which is now spluttering along at the back of the pack, because his Chancellor also claimed that people should keep more of the rewards of their efforts. And then he put their taxes up.
You kind of have to feel for Sunak a bit because he can't speak. But, you know, it's true that he wanted people to apparently keep more of the money that they made. And then he put their taxes up. He put their national insurance... Well, he didn't put their taxes up. He put the national insurance up. You know, he hasn't changed the universal credit taper amount enough. In fact, that thing they really need to look at. That thing's a joke, honestly. But, yeah.
So does the Prime Minister want to explain to hard-working people whose wages are running out sooner and sooner each month and who are facing astronomical bills and prices just how his 15 tax rises since taking office have helped them to keep
I would list the specific tax rises
of their rewards in their pocket?
Here we go.
Mr. Speaker, first of all, what we're doing is making sure after a huge pandemic that we are funding our vital public services, which we can, because of the steps that we take. What we're also doing is making sure that we put more money back into people's pockets by the measures that I've outlined today, whether through cutting national insurance contributions or lifting the living wage or lifting universal credit, Mr. Speaker. But all this is made possible. All this is made possible because we took the
highest growth last year because the economy tanked really hard. It was like, I think we're at minus 8% GDP or something like that. So of course when it rebounds, it's going to rebound really hard. Honestly, it's a good point there, Witty.
There were responsible and sensible steps to protect our economy throughout COVID and then to come out strongly. And he's completely wrong about this country's growth performance, Mr. Speaker. He runs it down. He runs it down. He was proved wrong about COVID. He's going to be proved wrong again.
I think it's the last one.
It's delusional. Mr. Speaker, last week I raised the case of Phoenix Halliwell, whose kidney condition means he needs...
You notice how it goes quiet, someone saying shush. You notice that? There's a reason behind that, because they don't want to look more out of touch than they already do. That's why it's gone quiet.
Daily dialysis, and whose energy bill has gone through the roof as a result. I'm glad that, as a result, government officials got in touch with Phoenix yesterday, and I hope that will result in more support for people who are vulnerable. But it shouldn't be left to Labour to turn up week after week to make him aware of the consequences of his dither and delay. So I want to raise another issue where the government is sleepwalking into disaster.
Okay.
With the summer holidays looming, there are reports that the Home Office already has a backlog of 500,000 passports to issue.
I wouldn't have gone for passports. I would not. This is not the one I would go for.
That's potentially more than 500,000 people worrying whether they will get away this summer. So can the Prime Minister reassure people?
I guess with the passports thing, it affects so many people, and could affect so many people. That's why he's brought it up, and it will affect people. Everyone pretty much across the board. If you're going on holiday this year, or you need to renew your ID, or if you're trying to get a British passport, I guess, if you're trying to become a citizen, for example. Working on his alcohol tolerance legally, since it was work after all. Yeah, I mean, he's doing a good job of that.
That they won't miss out on their holidays due to the failures of his Home Office.
Nice. He's taking shots at Sunak and Wanat Patel there.
I thank you very much, but I can tell him actually that what we're doing is massively increasing the speed with which the Passport Office deliver, and to the best of my...
Some of the backbenchers are annoyed, because I reckon they'd be getting messages. Some of the MPs would be getting messages about it.
knowledge, everybody is getting their passport within 4 to 6 weeks, Mr. Speaker. But that's...
I think it's 10 weeks, you know. I don't think it's 4 to 6 weeks. I think it's about 10 weeks.
That is because we are driving the leadership of this country. And we are getting things done that would never have been possible if we'd listened to them. We got Brexit done, Mr. Speaker, when he voted...
Oh, we got Brexit done, way! Even though you're still wrangling over the Northern Ireland Protocol and causing absolute chaos there, way!
He voted 48 times! 48 times he voted to undo the will of the people!
I don't think that's actually, what do you call it? I don't think that one's confirmed 48 times.
We got the vaccine rollout done when he would have kept it...
Oh, look at that, a vaccine rollout. Oh, mate, I need to do the bingo.
That's in the European Medicines Agency, Mr. Speaker. We were the first European country to help the Ukrainians resist Vladimir Putin. Yes. Do you think, does anybody seriously believe for a second that they would have done it?
I mean, yeah, I definitely think we would have done it. Yeah, Labour would have done a much better job helping refugees as well.
Some are trying to boo, some are trying to cheer. The worst of it is I can't hear the Prime Minister. Come on, Prime Minister.
Let me say very plainly, does anybody seriously think for a second that the Labour Party would have done that, Mr. Speaker?
Yes.
When eight of the shadow front bench, including the shadow Foreign Secretary, who is mysteriously not in his place, voted recently to get rid of this country's independent nuclear deterrent. And he campaigned...
Does he mean former?
He campaigned to put Jeremy Corbyn...
Vladimir Corbyn. Are you really accusing, Labour of being so Russia-centric when your party takes a ton of money from them? Honestly. Or at least took a load of money from them. And there were even stories in, I think it was the New York Times, where, through the backdoor channels, the Conservatives are still taking money from the Russians, allegedly.
Jeremy Corbyn in Downing Street, Mr. Speaker. We get on, we do the difficult things.
Yeah, like bankrupting the country. It's pretty difficult to do, given how many advisors and stuff you're meant to have.
We take the tough decisions, Mr. Speaker. Social care, we're fixing it.
I mean, the Tory party are chanting here. Is this their last gasp or their second wind, honestly? The Tories are pretty much funded by the Russians. I wonder how much of their drinks are from Russia. I don't know, mate. I don't know who's actually funding them at the moment, really, considering a lot of businesses won't support them as much now. Order.
Prime Minister, we both can't be on our feet. I'm trying to help you. You've got to help me as well. And I'm sure you've got to the end because Mr. Stewart's itching to get his question. Graham Stewart.
That's the end of PMQs. We'll go for a few more minutes, see if there's any interesting questions. If not, we'll go back to the stuff I was talking about earlier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. When the Prime Minister gets passionate, things get done.
That's not true at all.
Brexit is done. The vaccine...
No, it's not done though, is it? Because you keep wrangling over the Northern Ireland Protocol.
The vaccine... if they could contain themselves, the vaccine rollout done. So will my right honourable friend personally intervene so that the immunocompromised, like my constituent Scott, can get access to British wonder drug Evusheld, and then they, not next winter, not next year, but now, so that they can enjoy this summer and enjoy their freedom just like the rest of us.
I feel a bit annoyed. Yeah, no worries, Ali. I feel a bit annoyed when parliamentarians mention specific drugs, like medicines, purely because, you know, like, why are you mentioning them by name? Like, it feels a bit sus, to be honest.
Minister. Yes, Mr. Speaker, I know that the my actually reduced before.
Let's see if we can find any interesting questions.
Leader of the SNP, Ian Black.
Oh yes, my boy. Let's go.
Thank you,
Let's
Mr.
go,
Speaker.
Ian.
I want to join others today to express my deepest sorrow at the horrific events in Texas yesterday. 19 children and 2 teachers have needlessly lost their lives. Many of us in Scotland will be remembering the tragic events.
Well, technically, he's not. He is an MP, but he's not a Labour MP anymore. Jeremy Corbyn isn't.
In Dunblane 26 years ago. The thoughts and prayers of the SNP are with the families suffering today, but also our hope that lawmakers will finally act to bring the scourge of gun violence that plagues the United States to an end. Mr. Speaker, the reports that the Prime Minister in Downing Street's law-breaking have been damning. Empty bottles littering offices, rooms so crowded people were sitting on each other's laps.
Jeez,
and
this is what I'm
security
talking about,
forced
man. This is what Starmer should have been talking about as well, you know. But yeah, this is good stuff.
Intervene because the parties were so outrageous. At the centre was the Prime Minister.
Yeah, fastest rollout and then it's done. You know. There's the meme from the guy from In-Betweeners. You know, completed it, mate. I don't know if you're familiar with that one. If anyone is, that's basically what he just did there. He's like, vaccine rollout, completed it, mate. Jay.
Grabbing a glass for himself in order to toast the party goers.
I would have, if I don't know how much time they had, right? Because I'm just thinking when it was published. Because someone DM'd me about it. So shouts out to them. It was at 11:53. I don't know if they would have had enough time to get a picture of it, but I would have done that.
For 8 months, we've heard every excuse under the sun. But now we've all seen the damning photo evidence. Well, people stayed at home to protect the NHS.
Mm-hmm.
The Prime Minister was engaging...
And again, you notice how quiet the Tory party are.
...and drinking and debauchery that makes a mockery of the...
Oh, I spoke too soon.
...sacrifices
Spoke too soon.
that each and every person made.
Spoke too soon.
Will the Prime Minister... Will the Prime Minister...
Surely Speaker intervenes here.
...now take the opportunity and resign?
Surely the Speaker intervenes there, no?
Mr. Speaker, I can tell the right honourable gentleman that much as I appreciate his advice, he'll have a further opportunity, which I'm sure he will take with his customary length to debate that matter in the course of the statement which will follow directly after PMQs.
Okay.
Ian Blackfoot. Matters, Mr. Speaker, but it's all a joke to the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister has lost the trust of the public. He has lost what little moral authority he had left. The Prime Minister has apologised many times, not because he feels any genuine remorse. He still refuses to even admit that there were parties and that he presided over them. He apologised for one simple reason. He got caught.
Yeah.
The reality is, no apology will ever be enough for the families of people who lost loved ones. For the families who followed the rules, who stayed at home whilst their nearest and dearest to them were dying, and are now forced to look at photographs of the Prime Minister surrounded by drink, toasting to a party in the middle of a lockdown. If the Prime Minister will not accept that he must resign, then the Tory benches must act. This Prime Minister, who has broken the law and shown a cavalier attitude to the truth, cannot be allowed to remain in office. Prime Minister, time is up. Resign. Resign. Resign before this House is forced to remove him.
Prime Minister.
I thank him very much. I would just direct him again. I think it would be to his advantage to look through the report, and then I think we should return to it after PMQs.
We now come to Jonathan Gillis.
Is it a Tory MP? Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. High streets and heritage means a lot to the people.
Why does he get questioned every week? Every week this man has a dumb question or dumb statement to make.
Stoke-on-Trent North, Kidsgrove and Tork. Burslem and Tunstall, two of the great 6 towns of Stoke-on-Trent, are plagued with rogue and absent landlords who are too happy to let shops sit empty and
Oh, maybe he's not going to make a dumb point.
historically important buildings such as Price and Kensington Teapot Works fall into ruin, which is why I introduced my proper maintenance of land bill to increase fines on these ruinous owners. Can my right honourable friend confirm that as part of the government's planning reform, he will adopt my bill which imposes a new unlimited fine so these reckless reprobates can be held accountable? Up the veil for Saturday, Mr. Speaker.
Prime Minister.
I mean, that wasn't actually a bad question. It's about fining landlords who are absent and let their shops go derelict. Do you know what? Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I think the council should be able to repossess them, honestly. Spoke too soon again, didn't I?
Here, Mr. Speaker, up the veil. But on his, I want to thank him, by the way, for his campaign. I think he's entirely right, and that's why we've adopted the measures that he proposes in the bill. Those who leave properties derelict unreasonably could face an unlimited fine, Mr. Speaker.
How do you define unreasonably, though? That's the question. Yeah, same thing should stand for housing. I think if your house is derelict over a year and it's in disrepair, I think the council should be able to repo it, honestly. Repossessed.
Speaker.
Sir Geoffrey Donaldson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Oh, yes, let's go, Geoffrey. Let's see what idiocy he'll come up with this week. Oh, my God. Let's go.
I was pleased to meet the Prime Minister last week in Royal Hillsborough in my constituency. We welcome his commitment.
In fairness to this lady here, right, she's
in Royal
styling pretty
Hillsborough
hard.
in my constituency.
Mask matches her,
we welcome his
That's
commitment
cool.
to introduce legislation to deal with the protocol on the Irish Sea border and to protect the Belfast Good Friday Agreement. That will take some time. In the meantime, as in the rest of the United Kingdom, hard-pressed households in Northern Ireland are suffering from the
Bro, if you want to help people in Northern Ireland, surely you should open Stormont.
cost of living crisis. Will the Prime Minister
asleep?
Give me an assurance that any measures that are brought forward by the Chancellor in the near future to help hard-pressed households will apply to Northern Ireland, and that the protocol will not be allowed to prevent Northern Ireland citizens receiving the support they need from the government at this time.
I mean, the protocol is not going to stop it, though. The thing stopping support going to Northern Ireland is you, isn't it? Because you've got Stormont closed.
I thank the right honourable gentleman very much. As he knows, we have a package of measures to support families across the whole of the UK that I've detailed already to the House. I may say that I also think it would be an advantage to the people of Northern Ireland in tackling the issues that we all face across the UK if Stormont were to be restored, Mr. Speaker.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The recent report on levelling up the rural economy highlighted many areas where more work is needed in small rural and coastal communities to ensure they also benefit from our levelling up agenda. Does the Prime Minister agree with me that we need to ensure levelling up reaches into rural and coastal Devon? Plans for Devon?
I mean, the levelling up, the whole thing is a joke, isn't it? So let's get that out of the way. It's not even as much money as EU structural funds. So, you know, it's just madness.
Minister. Yes, of course, Mr. Speaker, because my honourable friend is a fantastic advocate for Devon, for rural communities, and I will make sure that both she and Helen Herford get a meeting with the relevant minister to discuss her ideas further.
Bentley. Mr. Speaker, rising fuel costs are causing serious problems for workers in car-dependent rural areas like Ceredigion. And for carers,
you know, even in non-rural areas, I can't imagine how bad it is in rural areas, right? Areas where public transport sucks, like where I live, it's really hard to get around without a car. So I can't imagine if you lived in the countryside how difficult it'd be.
and district nurses, the situation has reached a crisis point. One carer from Ceredigion often has to travel 29 miles just to reach the first service user of the day and travels around 1,700 miles each month. Would the Prime Minister therefore consider extending the Rural Fuel Duty Relief Scheme to areas like Ceredigion to help my constituent and many like her to continue their invaluable work.
Good question.
Well, I thank him for his excellent question, and I can tell him that fuel duty relief is there to compensate motorists by helping retailers in some more remote rural areas where pump prices can be significantly higher. It currently operates on a geographical basis, but Mr. Speaker, I'm very happy to ensure that the honourable gentleman gets a meeting with the relevant minister as fast as possible.
Stevenson.
Okay.
Prime Minister, Labour and socialism has failed this country because they've followed...
Bro, when did we have a socialist government? When? When did we have a socialist government? I'm genuinely asking. I mean, are you going to argue Clement Attlee was? When did we have a socialist government in the UK? Genuine question.
Policies which interfere too much in people's lives, over-regulate, spend too much taxpayers' money, borrow too much, and raise tax...
Are you talking about the Tory party? Waste taxpayers' money, borrow too much? Sounds like you're talking about the Conservative Party, mate, to be honest with you.
Could the Prime Minister tell the House what policies his government are going to follow to ensure we don't have a similar fate?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I can. And I'm grateful to my honourable friend, and he's absolutely right.
Question.
That Labour's instinct everywhere and always is to put up tax with all its that's what they're bragging about it today, Mr. Speaker. It's ludicrous. And what we are doing is not only cutting people's contributions under national insurance, but also cutting his idealists, Mr. Speaker, and I will make sure that all relevant ministers and civil servants appear before his committee.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister is leading a long queue of Conservatives MPs lining up to show how out of touch they are. Bills are rising, people are struggling. A quarter of people in work in Putney earn less than the London living wage. They don't need to be told how to budget better, to learn how to cook, to buy value food. They already are. When will the Prime Minister get a grip on this crisis, and when will he bring in the windfall tax?
Mr. Speaker, what we're doing for the people of Putney and the people throughout this country is making sure that we invest now in protecting them, as I've said to the House and I've said repeatedly, not just with the increases in universal credit or in the living wage, in the warm homes discount, in cutting fuel bills, but also, of course, with the £330 cut in NICs, Mr. Speaker. But the reason we can do this is because we have a robust economic position in which we have strong employment. That is giving us the revenue to pay and to cushion people in this difficult time. It would not have been possible if we'd listened to the Labour Party during COVID.
That's not true at all, is it?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This weekend, tens of thousands of Huddersfield sporting fans are coming down to London. On Saturday, Huddersfield Giants are in their first Rugby League Challenge Cup final for over a decade.
Who cares?
And on Sunday, it's Huddersfield Town in the Championship playoff final for a place in the Premier League.
That's cool.
Will the Prime Minister, as well as wishing the best of luck to both Huddersfield teams, agree with me that the best way that Labour-run Kirklees Council can honour the sporting tradition of Huddersfield is following through with their pledge to house the new National Rugby League Museum in Huddersfield, in the birthplace, the George Hotel, and not pull out of that deal as they've indicated they want to do so?
I mean, it's a museum about sports. Like, it's not shameful if they pull out of it. Do they have the funding to do it? Is the museum viable? These are the questions you should really be asking. I mean, what? Again, these people, man, I genuinely don't get it.
Prime Minister.
Is that the Labour Council pulling out of their deal? Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm not surprised. All I can say is I congratulate him on his campaign for a National Rugby League museum, and I urge him to take it up.
National Rugby League Museum in Huddersfield. What?
The Arts Council or other relevant bodies.
Andy MacDonald.
He doesn't
Thank
care.
you,
That's a
Mr.
non-answer.
Speaker. Under the cover of the pandemic, we've seen a massive shift in wealth from the poorest to the richest.
Yep.
A partying PM and a law-breaking rich list chancellor have lined the pockets of their wealthy pals, whilst upwards of 175,000 of our fellow citizens have died from COVID, and they're now sitting on their hands and laughing in our faces as the cost of living crisis and fuel poverty could well leave thousands more to die of cold in their own homes. So, Mr. Speaker, when we saw pictures of the PM partying in the middle of the pandemic, was he toasting his assault on the working class? And I ask him, how on earth does he sleep at night with so much blood on his filthy, privileged hands?
Okay, it's not bad.
Mr. Speaker, from furlough onwards, everything we have done since the pandemic began has been to get money into the pockets of the working people of this country.
Well, you know, when you did test and trace, I wouldn't say Dido Harding is one of the working people of this country, but, you know, maybe you could argue it, because, I mean, Serco made a lot of money. Serco's shareholders made a lot of money. They may not necessarily have, you know, 9-to-5 jobs, but, you know, the government did their best to put the money in the hands of, quote, you know, working people. So I guess maybe Serco are classed as working. I don't know.
And those are the people, time and again, that we have prioritised. And I do not for a moment, I do not for a moment doubt, Mr. Speaker, that things are tough. I do not doubt it for a moment. But it is our intention to get this country through it, and we will get through it very well by putting our arms around people as we can and as we will. Because
can you stop using that phrase, putting our arms around people? It's very unsettling.
The fiscal firepower that we have, Mr. Speaker, but also by making sure that we continue with the high wage, high skill, high employment economy.
Okay, high wage it's not. High skill, make trade schools and other colleges and universities cheaper. What was the last one?
Making sure that we continue with the high wage, high skill, high employment economy.
High employment, yeah, that's the only thing you've got.
We have, and the best thing to get money.
Put them in a full Nelson.
Money into people's pockets, Mr. Speaker, is to have a job.
Jill Mortimer.
Does the Prime Minister agree with me that when the right honourable member opposite spins his myth of a low-tax Labour Party, he clearly needs a memory job? Because...
You know, a memory job? Did you say a memory job or a memory jog? Because her delivery was awful, and then she paused, waiting for applause. I mean, let's go back here. I mean, this was terrible.
Clearly needs a memory job.
She paused, waiting for applause, and no one did because it was terrible.
Because can I just remind you all that in 2019, you all stood on a manifesto that would have inflicted the highest tax burden on the people of this country in peacetime.
You know what's ironic, right? Is Labour were gonna do it and really redistribute money. You guys actually did it. You guys actually have the highest tax burden since World War II. Crazy, innit? The thing you're accusing the Labour Party of doing, you actually did. Madness, I know. Crazy.
That's probably why there's so few of you over there.
Yeah, Minister.
Ha 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 ha. You know, she really needs to work on her delivery and jokes, because that was terrible. That was just absolutely... Oh, mate, that one hurt, you know. That one, you know, she needs to... There's a lot of skills she needs to really work on her delivery there. That was terrible joke, terrible delivery, factually inaccurate. You're accusing the Labour Party of trying to do what the Tory parties actually have done. If it was something to be proud of, then sure, but having the highest tax burden is not.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, they campaigned to put up taxes on business to the highest level this country has ever seen.
And you guys actually did it. You're raising corporation tax rate to like 24%, I think it is. You've raised taxes on the poorest people in this country. Excuse me. Like, you guys actually done it. Conceive, believe, achieve. You guys did it.
That was his ambition, Mr. Speaker, and that's what that is what they would do again. Be in no doubt, that's what they love to do. You can feel the lust for tax rising off those benches opposite, Mr. Speaker, and that is why there's never been a Labour government.
It's a bit weird. He keeps saying that. It's a bit unsettling.
The left office with unemployment lower than when they came in.
Mr. Wakeford.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yesterday, the head of Ofgem advised MPs that the energy cap is due to increase to £2,800 in the autumn, more than double from last year. And I know the Prime Minister has been busy drafting and redrafting his half-assed apologies rather than helping the people of Bury South. But at which work event
That was your party, bro, not long ago. I don't pull a face like that. You stood on their manifesto. You were a part of them as much as they were a part of you, mate. So I wouldn't be pulling faces like that, pal.
Thank you, Mr. But at which work event did he realise Labour's call was the right thing to do? Considering he and his party voted against it last week, is it just to save his own neck?
I couldn't either hear the question or the advice I was being given. It might be helpful I could hear both. Prime Minister, did you manage to hear it?
Very much more. I heard enough, Mr. Speaker, to have a rough idea of the nonsense that he was talking. And what we're doing, Mr. Speaker, is not only supporting people now, but we will continue to put our arms around the people of this country.
Bro, please stop saying that. It's terrifying.
As we did during the pandemic and beyond.
You've goddamn chokeslammed the country like during the pandemic. You're gonna do it again? Yeah, careerist vibes.
Can I just say, moderate language is what we normally use. I don't find it.
I can condone the lies, but I draw the line at using slightly offensive language. Someone should make a meme out of that with that lady from Community.
The chair, and I don't think it suits the country, so please. John Barron.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister will recall I've previously raised with him the plight of 170 British council contractors who remain in Afghanistan in fear of their lives, 85 of whom are deemed to be at very high risk. I met the refugee minister last week. It was a positive meeting.
We have a refugee minister? I didn't even know that.
But we face bureaucracy, which is...
I hope Boris Johnson ends up with Amber Heard. I mean, does Amber Heard really deserve that? It's the new Tory spin phrase. What is? Put arms around people. I mean, that sounds like domestic abuse, to be honest.
Preventing the FCDO from cutting through that bureaucracy and helping these people now, courtesy of the ACRS scheme. Will he help us cut through that red tape and help these people? We owe them a debt of obligation and time is running out.
Well, I thank him very, very much. I'll see what we can do to help those particular people, but I just remind the House that we've not only evacuated 15,000 people under Rock Pitting, which I think was a great...
It's not enough, though, is it? There are contractors there. There are people at risk there who have or will be killed by the Taliban. They were so desperate to get to the UK that they even, travelled to France to try and take a boat across. So, just come on, man.
Great credit to this country. We've
they
supported
died.
Since then.
One of them died. One of them was I think a UK contractor in Afghanistan. He actually died on one of the dinghies.
Since then, 4,600 more have come to this country, and we'll do what we can to help the people that he mentions.
Boris.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Jubilee Lead Academy in my constituency, working with Nottingham citizens, recently asked me to visit the school to hear about their low pay campaign. They're tired of seeing people in our community working hard.
I'll be back in a few minutes. I'll keep this thing playing, but I'll be.
Living in poverty, and now bills are rising, inflation's at 9%, and yet the government seems incapable and frankly a little disinterested in doing anything to help out. Mr. Speaker, our children can see the need for emergency action. Why can't our government?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, everybody in work, 30 million workers will get a tax cut in July, on top of everything that we're already doing. But that is not the end of what this government is going to do to look after people. And I've told the House before this afternoon, that we will continue to use our fiscal firepower to look after the British people through the COVID aftershocks and beyond.
Peg Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On Monday at 3:25, a school bus crashed into a group of school children in Llanfachronion. 3 children were airlifted to hospital, with another child and the bus driver taken by ambulance, and a 5th child was discharged at the scene. Everyone is in a stable condition.
Come back.
Clearly, this is a tragic accident that will stay with the community for some time.
Lord
Will the
Harrington.
Prime Minister join me, and I'm sure the whole House, in sending our love and prayers to those in hospital? And will he also praise the teaching staff of both the primary and high school, the Welsh Air Ambulance, Dyfed Powys Police, for their heroic response and their continuing response to the community?
I thank my honourable friend for raising this very, very...
What's he talking about?
...sad incident, and I'm sure the whole House, his thoughts, Mr. Speaker, will be with those who have been affected, and I want to join him in particular in paying tribute to the emergency services but also, of course, the teachers and the staff at the school who did so much to help.
Tony Antoniazzi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Prime Minister, my constituent Robert Walker sadly died last year. He worked for MI6 and as such disclosed in confidence that he was a gay man. This confidence was breached by the HR department at the Foreign Commonwealth Office.
Okay.
Recently unearthed paperwork showed that this breach largely accounted for his well-being and enforced early retirement. Would the Prime Minister offer Bob's partner, Stephen Honeyman, a posthumous apology and commit to ask the Foreign Commonwealth Office for a formal response to his treatment while he worked at MI6?
Prime Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I want to begin by saying how grateful I am to the honourable member for raising this case, but I have to tell her I'm afraid I don't know directly about the events that she describes. What she says is very concerning. I'll make sure that she gets a meeting with the relevant minister as soon as possible.
That ends Prime Minister's questions.
Okay.
For those who wish to leave. We now, can I just say to the House, I expect moderate and temperate language.
Are they continuing the stream?
We now start with questions.
Are they? How do I find what's going on now? I don't get it. Where do I find the rest of this? Because it sounds like they're going to talk about something else, but there's no live stream set up for it, so I don't know why the UK Parliament page. Maybe it hasn't started yet. I don't know. It's 54 minutes. We'll come back to this. If anyone's got a link to the next session, let me know. If not, we'll go over some of these pictures. I'm going to do like a video on this, but so we've got was this necessary for work purposes? So a gathering in the cabinet room in number 10 Downing Street for the Prime Minister's birthday. You can see, I'm assuming that's cake and stuff in a Tupperware. You got the gathering, another picture of the gathering. Genuinely doesn't look like 2 meters. It looks like there's a lot of people here. I'm assuming, I don't know who that is actually, very casually dressed. BBC iPlayer Parliament channel maybe. I would have thought that this page would have covered it. That's the only thing. We'll give it a few minutes. If not, I'll try and figure it out. You've got, this must be the one where Sunak got fined. So gathering in Cabinet Room 10 for Prime Minister's birthday. So you can see there's quite a lot of people in here actually. And look, it definitely wasn't just, a quick cake, because he's obviously, there's obviously a lot of people there, and he's obviously talking as well. He's giving a speech of some sort. You've got the gathering of number 10 on the departure of the special advisor. So these are the pictures we saw more recently, or some of them at least. You got this one. Again, it's pretty samey, to be honest. Not the worst quality pictures either. So yeah, she's put pictures in at the end, which, it's far near the end anyway. So what's she got here? Investigation, footnotes, I'm assuming these are. So yeah, I'll go through this at some point. I've done pretty well with scheduling. So yeah, bear with me 2 minutes. What I'll do is, if they got anything up here, I'm not sure when we're meant to find the next session. Just bear with me one moment. See, it's a bit boring, isn't it? Let me put some music on. I'll lose the audience otherwise. See if I can find it. There we go. Let me put some brief intermittent music on as I lose the audience. Ah, there it is. Yeah, I've got it. Why it's not on the Parliament page? I don't understand.
Broken the law.
me pause this. Let's go back.
Was he toasting his assault on the working class?
Okay.
I do not die, and that is not.
Here we go.
Is up to the political leadership in number 10. With permission, I will make a statement. I'm grateful to Sue Gray for her report today, and I want to thank her for the work that she's done. I also thank the Metropolitan Police for completing their investigation, and I want to begin today by renewing my apology to the House,
how's the volume?
To the whole country for the short lunchtime gathering on the 19th of June 2020 in the Cabinet Room, during which I stood at my place at the Cabinet table and for which I received a fixed penalty notice. And I also want to say, Mr. Speaker, above all, that I take full responsibility for everything that took place on my watch. Sue Gray's report has emphasised that it is up to the political leadership in number 10 to take ultimate responsibility, and of course...
In the investigation, there was no punishment for lying to her, I don't think.
I do. But since these investigations have now come to an end, this is my first opportunity to set out some of the context and to explain both my understanding of what happened and also to explain what I have previously said to this House. And it's important to set out that over a period of about 600 days, gatherings on a total of 8 dates have been found to be in breach of the regulations in a building that is 5,300 metres square across 5 floors, excluding the flats.
He's trying to get out of it, but the thing is, he saw these people partying. You know, he walked in on them. There's videos of it, you know, that he saw what was going on. So for him to deny it, it's just rubbish.
Mr. Speaker, I do think it is important because this is the first time I've had a chance I've had to set out the context. Hundreds of staff are entitled to work, and in the Cabinet Office, which has thousands of officials and now is the biggest it's been in any point in its 100-year history. And that is in itself one of the reasons why the government is now looking for change and reform. Mr. Speaker, those staff working in Downing Street were permitted to continue attending their office for the purpose of work, and the exemption under the regulations applied to their work because of the nature of their jobs reporting directly to the Prime Minister. These people were working extremely long hours.
They weren't,
their
though.
Best to give this country...
They weren't doing long hours because they were doing wine time Fridays at 4 p.m. That's not long hours. Long hours is like getting out of the office, like it's starting from like, I don't know, like 9 a.m. to like 7. That's long hours. Doing 12-hour shifts, those are long hours, not wine time Fridays.
The ability to fight the pandemic during... Mr. Speaker, I appreciate that this is no mitigation, but it is important to set out
Prime Minister,
context.
please, just one second. Can I just appeal to the House? I expect it to be heard, and I want everybody to hear it. And I want the same respect to be shown to the Leader of the Opposition afterwards. So please, this is a very, very important statement that the country wants to hear as well. Prime Minister.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, I'm trying to set out the context, not to mitigate or to absolve myself in any way. The exemption under which they were present in Downing Street includes those circumstances where officials and advisers were leaving the government. And it was appropriate to recognise them, to thank them for the work that they have done.
You could have done that over video, pal. Was it appropriate? That's a good question. Yeah, he could have done it over video.
Let me come to that, Mr. Speaker. I briefly attended such gatherings to thank them for their...
He was allegedly there for about 10 minutes.
...service, which I believe is one of the essential duties of leadership, and particularly important when people need to feel that their contributions have been appreciated, and to keep morale as high as possible. I'm trying to explain the reasons I was there, Mr.
He could have spoken to him outside. He could have said, look, mate, thanks for your work. Good luck in the future. He could have sent over a video. He could have given him a card. Didn't have to go to one of these sorts of gatherings.
And it's clear from what Sue Gray has had to say that some of these gatherings then went on far longer than was necessary. And they were clearly in breach of the rules, and they fell foul of the rules. I have to tell the House, because the House will need to know this, and again, this is not to mitigate or to extenuate, I had no knowledge of those subsequent proceedings because I simply wasn't there. And I have been as surprised and disappointed as anyone else in this House as the revelations have unfolded. And frankly, Mr. Speaker, I have been appalled by some of the behaviour, particularly in the treatment of the security and the cleaning staff. And I would like to apologise to those members of staff. And I expect anyone who behaved in that way to apologise to them as well. And I'm happy to set on the record now that when I came to this House and said in all sincerity that the rules and guidance would be followed at all times, it was what I believed to be true.
He's throwing his junior ministers and underlings, essentially subordinates, under the bus here, and a lot of them are annoyed about it. A lot of them are annoyed, and some of them say that Boris Johnson, he might not have participated in a lot of these, but he did walk past them to go to the flat, and to go to the various other rooms, so he definitely saw them.
It was certainly the case when I was present at gatherings to wish staff farewell, and the House will note that my attendance at these moments, brief as it was, has not been found to be outside the rules. But clearly this was not the case for some of those gatherings after I had left, and at other gatherings when I was not even in the building.
So the gatherings were allowed whilst Boris Johnson was there, but as soon as he went, that's when they weren't allowed. It's like, when Andy walks in Toy Story and all the toys have to pretend they're not alive, like that.
So I would like to correct the record, to take this opportunity, not in any sense to absolve myself of responsibility, which I take and have always taken, but simply to explain why I spoke as I did in this House. Mr. Speaker, in response to her interim report, Sue Gray acknowledges that very significant changes have already been enacted.
Like what?
She writes, and I quote, "I am pleased that progress is being made in addressing the issues I raised." And she adds, "Since my update, there have been changes to the organisation and management of Downing Street in the Cabinet Office with the aim of creating clearer lines of leadership and accountability, and now these need the chance and time to bed in. Number 10 now has its own permanent secretary charged with applying the highest standards of governance. There are now easier ways for staff to voice any worries, and Sue Gray welcomes that, and I quote, "Steps have since been taken to introduce more easily accessible means by which to raise concerns electronically, in person or online, including directly with the permanent
This is so
secretary.
meh. I can't. I'm struggling to listen to
The entire
this.
senior management has changed. There is a new chief of staff, an elected member of this House, who also commands the status of a cabinet minister. There is a new director of communications.
This is so
a new
boring.
principal private secretary.
I'm skipping some of this.
And we have learned our lesson. We'll always be proud of what they achieved. Reported the people are facing, fulfilling our pledges to generate a high wage.
Will remain.
Let's see what Keir has to say.
We now come to the Leader of the Opposition, Keir Starmer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The door of number 10 Downing Street is one of the great symbols of our democracy. Those who live behind it exercise great power, but they do so knowing their stay is...
I thought he was going to say, with great power comes great responsibility.
...temporary. Long after they've gone, that door and the democracy it represents will remain firm and unyielding. But Britain's constitution is fragile. It relies on members of this House and the custodians of number 10 behaving responsibly, honestly, and in the interests of the British people.
It relies on norms. That's the problem. It's not a set bunch of rules. It relies on norms and customs. And when people break those, the system isn't built to deal with them people. That's why when you mislead the House, you're meant to inform the House straight away that you've misled them. And typically, you should offer your resignation. But what happens when people consistently lie and mislead the House, but do not accept that they've misled the House? If you see what I'm saying, it's built on a system of norms, an honour system. But honour systems don't work. All right, Michael, mate. I'm not.
When our leaders fall short of these standards, this House has to act. For months, members opposite have asked the country to wait. First for the police investigation, which concluded that this Prime Minister is the first in our country's history to have broken the law in office. Then they asked the country to wait for the Sue Gray report. They need wait no longer. That report lays bare the rot that under this Prime Minister has spread in Number 10.
How's he read the report so quickly? It only came out like 12:30. Or
and it provides
11:57, I think.
Definitive proof of how those within the building treated the sacrifices of the British people with utter contempt. When the dust settles and the
Say one time Fridays.
The anger subsides, this report will stand as a monument to the hubris and the arrogance of a government that believed it was one rule for them and another rule for everyone else. The details are stark. 5 months ago, the Prime Minister told this House all guidance was completely followed in Number 10. Yet we now know he attended events on the 17th of December. At least one of those attending has received a fine for it, deeming it illegal. We know...
Yep, one person at that specific event was fined. We don't know how many more. Whoops. Oh, crap.
Our leaders fall short of these standards. All guidance was House. This is about trust. Because during that May 20 press conference, the British public were told normal life as we know it is a long way off. But that wasn't the case in Number 10. Even now, after 126 fines, they think it's everyone else's fault but theirs.
Exactly. He's got to say, you're blaming the junior ministers, you're blaming the civil servants, you're blaming the people who apparently broke the rules, but somehow you were at these events and you didn't get fined. It's very sus. Sadiq Khan's got a lot of questions for the Met Police as well, by the sounds of it.
Others to take the blame whilst they cling on. They pretend that the Prime Minister has somehow been exonerated, as if the fact that he only broke the law once is worthy of praise. The truth is, they set the bar for his conduct lower than a snake's belly. And now they expect the rest of us to congratulate him as he stumbles over it. Number 10 symbolises the principles of public life in this country. Selflessness, integrity, objectivity, accountability, openness, honesty, leadership.
I thought he was going to mention the Nolan principles there.
But who could read this report and honestly believe the Prime Minister has upheld those standards? The reason the British public have had to endure this farce was his refusal to admit the truth or do the decent thing when he was found to have broken the law. This report was necessary because of what Sue Gray describes as failures of leadership and judgment for which senior political leadership must bear responsibility. It is that failure of leadership that has now left his government paralysed in the middle of a cost of living crisis. The government has turned the focus of his government to saving his own skin. It's utterly shameful. It is precisely because he cannot lead that it falls to others to do so. I've been clear what leadership looks like. I haven't broken any rules, and any attempt to compel...
Sorry?
I would be slightly careful about saying that, considering he's still under investigation by Durham Police. Yeah, true that. The fact that the Met Police are accountable to the Home Secretary is a joke, but I think Sadiq Khan does get some say over it as Mayor of London. I'm not sure how much, though.
Can I just calm it down? Quite rightly, I wanted to the Prime Minister. I expect the same of the Leader of the Opposition. Now, those who don't wish to hear, please, go and have a cup of tea or something. Kiss Dama.
Wish I had a cup of tea.
I've been clear what leadership looks like.
Bro,
I haven't broken any rules, and any attempt to compare a perfectly legal takeaway while working to this catalogue of criminality looks even more ridiculous today.
That's a good point, but the thing is, he's got to wait until he's cleared by Durham Police to kind of use these attack lines. If he is somehow found guilty, it's not going to be a good look. But when you compare what Starmer's accused of doing, compare it to what what we can see Johnson has done, it's just wild.
But Mr. Speaker,
but as he has declared he will resign if he's been found to be in breach, he may as well make the categorical. I guess that's a fair point.
if the police decide otherwise,
oh, there we go,
I will do the decent thing.
Yeah, fair play,
step
Fat.
down.
Maybe you watch this. Maybe you're a minute ahead of me there, but yeah, you're right.
The public need to know that not all politicians are the same.
Fair play, guys.
That not all politicians put themselves above their country. That honesty, integrity and accountability matter. Members on the opposite benches now also need to show leadership. This Prime Minister is steering the country in the wrong direction. They can hide in the back seat, eyes covered, praying for a miracle, or they can act. Stop this out of touch, out of control Prime Minister from driving Britain towards disaster. We waited for the Sue Gray report. The country can't wait any longer. The values symbolised by the door of number 10 must be restored. Members opposite must finally do their bit. They must tell the current inhabitant, their leader, that this has gone on too long. The game is up. You cannot be a lawmaker and a lawbreaker. And it's time to pack his bags. Only then can the government function again. Only then can the rot be carved out. Only then...
He has, in fairness, he has attacked Sunak a lot during PMQs. He did really go after Sunak. I think Liz Truss needs to be the next focus of his attention, but he has really gone after Sunak during this.
And can we restore the dignity?
And in fairness, Sunak was fined as well, so he should have resigned as well.
Of that great office and the democracy that it represents.
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the right honourable gentleman talks about what went on in number 10 Downing Street and the events behind that black door, and the number of the events. And all I will say to him is that he, throughout the pandemic, was not leading many thousands of people in the fight against coronavirus.
By the way, you, pal, you were drinking a lot by the looks of things. You also did a really bad job. I would not be taking a victory lap. And that's what Starmer needs to do. How can Johnson take a victory lap when he's got the highest death rate per capita in Europe? How is that cause for success?
He was sniping from the sidelines and veering from one position to the next. And today, Mr. Speaker, he's done it again. Week after week, he could have come to this House and talked about the economy, about Ukraine, about.
There's a holder there. I didn't know that. What I'd say about Beergate is it's pretty much a non-issue. My only concern is how much pressure are Durham Police under. That's my only real concern.
The cost of living. No, Mr. Speaker.
He spoke about the cost of living crisis earlier, you joker.
Time after time, he chose to focus on this issue. He could have shown.
You know who should be focusing on the cost of living crisis, mate? You.
Some common sense, Mr. Speaker, and recognised that when people are working very hard together, day in, day out, that it can be difficult to draw the boundary, Mr. Speaker, between work and socialising.
No, it's not. Is this related to your work as a cabinet secretary, a civil servant, an MP? No, it's socialising. You know, if you're talking about the problems within, I don't know, a specific constituency, then you talk about, you know, how crap Man United are. That's socialising. It's not relevant to your job.
And yet, after months of his, frankly, sanctimonious obsession, Mr. Speaker, the great gaseous zeppelin of his pomposity...
The great who?
...has been permanently...
With respect to Starmer, you've been able to call him out with facts, as you have done on many PMQs. This is extremely lacking in Starmer's delivery. He's too attached to his... Yeah, that's the thing, though, isn't it? That's the basic lawyer in him, to stick to the script. He needed to come with the pictures, honestly.
Punctured and irretrievably by the revelation that he is himself... he didn't mention this. He is himself under investigation by the police...
Yeah, but you were found guilty, pal. He said that if he is found guilty by the police, he'll resign. You haven't done that. You have been found guilty by the police, big boy.
By the police, Mr. Speaker, and yet, I'm not going to mince my words. I've got to say this. Sabir Korma, Mr. Speaker.
What the... Bro, oh my... Oh, Sabir Korma is... Oh, I should have just made my career doing Yu-Gi-Oh cards or something, man. Sabir Korma. What the hell is that? Imagine, right? You stay up all week, right, trying to think, oh, what's the best way for me to attack? What's the best way for me to attack Starmer? Sabir Korma. Oh my god. The Korma is one of the worst curries out there as well. I don't know why he's gone for that one, but, you know, Sabir Madras, Sabir Jalfrezi, like, you had so many better options for curries. Sabir Korma, that's so pathetic. Straight out of the Spectator editorial, fair play.
Is currently failing to hold himself to the same high standards that he demanded of me.
You know, I think he said that the Prime Minister's under investigation, he should resign, which is always a slightly dodgy attack line to take, but the simple fact is, once you're found guilty by the police, it's a resignation right there.
It's true. He called for me to resign, Mr. Speaker, when the investigation began. Why is he in his place?
Mr. Holden, it's the second time. Please, help me to help you, because I'm sure you want to hear the rest of it. Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker.
I'd be embarrassed if you guys were running the country, mate. Let's be honest here.
He should at least be consistent and hold himself to the same standards. He's still there, and so is the shadow deputy.
Bro, can you shut up?
Leader. And Mr. Speaker, I apologise when the revelations emerged. I continue to apologise. I repeat that I am humbled by what has happened, and we have instituted profound changes throughout Number 10. But I think in view of the mess that he has found himself in himself, it would now be a sensible thing for him too to apologise. So that we can all...
Apologise for what? He hasn't been found guilty of anything. Apologise for what?
So that we can all collectively move on, Mr. Speaker. And that, I think, is what the people of this country want to see above all. They want to see leadership from this House of Commons, leadership from both parties, Mr. Speaker, in dealing with their priorities.
Starmer should immediately respond with, I'm under investigation for one breach, you're investigated for dozens. Yeah, true that. He's still apologising for the revelations. He's still only apologising for the revelations. So is our barge now blaming the rules that he set himself for breaking the rules? Also, the Beer Korma remark is very lame, embarrassing and immature. I mean, honestly, the Beer Korma thing is just so bad.
Priorities, and that is why we are focused on getting through the aftershocks of COVID. That's why I'm proud of what we did to roll out the...
Speaker, my right on...
Who the hell is this?
...honourable friend well knows the rules apply to him as much to all...
He knows the rules, and so do I. Sorry, I have to do that each time.
All of us. And the rules of this House are clear that anybody who comes here and deliberately lies and misleads this House should leave their position.
The thing is, though, he's saying he didn't deliberately lie. He's arguing he inadvertently lied, which is something Amber Rudd actually resigned as the Home Office Secretary for.
Resign.
Oh, it's Robert Buckland.
Or apologise. My right honourable friend has been asked many times about specific incidents, specific events that Sue Gray has outlined.
Sue Gray.
Has he on any occasion come to this House in response to specific questions about specific events and deliberately lied to us?
That's the thing, that asking if he deliberately lied is pointless. They should be like, you inadvertently lied to the House. That's a resignation right there. That's what Amber Rudd resigned for. She inadvertently lied, I think. It was about Windrush.
No, Mr. Speaker, for the reason
No,
I
Mr.
have
Speaker.
given that at the time that I spoke to this House, I believe that what I was doing was to attend work events, and with the exception of the event in
look how hard you're working.
Room, that is a view that has been vindicated by the investigation.
We now come to the leader of the SNP.
He's working hard, right? Lifting that glass up. That looks like a lot of effort, and then lowering it again. Yeah, that looks really difficult. Look at that. He's looking, he's got his glass tilted because he's going to drink it. It's madness, honestly. He's got a can of non-sponsored drink up there. Ugh.
MP Ian Blackford.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I speak, the public is pouring
Sorry to
over
hear that fact.
the sordid details of what went on out of the public eye.
Why are
Behind
they
the high
leaving? Why are they leaving when Ian Blackford's speaking? It's so disrespectful.
gates and the walls of the Prime Minister's residence, and the report is damning. It concludes, many gatherings and many individuals did not adhere to COVID guidance. Events were attended by leaders in government and should not have been allowed to happen. Junior civil servants believed their involvement was permitted by the attendance of senior leaders. There was an unacceptable lack of respect and poor treatment of security and cleaning staff. And crucially, Mr. Speaker, the senior leadership at the centre, both political and official, must bear responsibility for this culture. That leadership came from the top.
Had a
and
video.
the Prime Minister, in the words of the report, must bear responsibility for the culture.
Had something
a fish rots from the head. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister's dispatch box denial of a party taking place on the 13th of November is now proven to be untrue. He was there on the 13th of November, photographed,
this is the one I want to
raising
talk
a toast, surrounded by gin, wine
We'll talk about that in a
and
few
other
minutes.
revellers.
Sorry about that.
The charge of misleading Parliament is a resignation matter. Will the Prime Minister now finally resign? This Prime Minister has adopted a systematic, concerted and sinister pattern of evasion. Truthfulness, honesty and transparency do not enter his vocabulary. It is just not part of his way of being, and it speaks for the type of man that he is. Credibility, truth, morality all matter. And the Prime Minister has been found lacking time and time again. And he can shake his head, but that's the reality, Prime Minister. Ethics have to be part of our public life, and ethical behaviour has to be at the core of the demeanour and the response of any...
Can Starmer just give like half his questions over to Ian Blackford, honestly?
Prime Minister. The Prime Minister brings shame on the office and his...
Yeah, with that point, you know, if he's suspended, that would be by the Privileges Committee, right? And that they would have to do a recall petition. So they could do it. It just depends on how organised the people are in Oxford. Because if Boris Johnson loses his seat, that would be amazing. I would love that so much. Honestly, it'd be so great. It'd be unprecedented, I think, in British politics as well.
Displayed contempt, not only to the members of this House, but to every single person who followed the rules. They stayed away from family, those who missed funerals, those who lost someone they loved. So when the Tory members opposite retire to the 1922 committee this evening, I hope they will bear in mind the now infamous government advert featuring a desperately ill COVID patient. It said, "Look into her eyes and
I kind of wish he would bring the photo out and show it to the camera.
Tell her you never bend the rules. If they don't submit a letter, if they don't remove this Prime Minister, how will they ever look at their constituents in the eye ever again?"
And if you're in one of these Tory MPs' constituencies who back the Prime Minister, right, and you've lost relatives, tell them how you feel.
Mr. Speaker, I think that the right honourable gentleman should look closely at Sue Gray's report, and I repeat my thanks to her. I stress that the nature and length of my involvement in these events is very clear from what she says, and I take full responsibility for what happened, and that is why we've taken the steps that we have
to
reform and improve the way Number 10 works.
Listening to Wellingborough and Rushton. And you may recall on one occasion that group asked me to present a letter at PMQ calling for a previous Prime Minister to resign. What they're telling me today, Mr. Speaker, is their concern...
He's honestly leader of the opposition. Ian Blackford is my leader of the opposition anyways.
...concerns are the terrible war in Ukraine, the illegal immigrants crossing the channel, and the economy.
It's not illegal.
And their message to the Prime Minister is to get on with the job.
Hey, it's Bowler Hat Man. Yes, if you live in a Tory constituency and you've lost relatives, make sure they're aware. Make sure they're aware that whilst the Prime Minister broke the rules, and the Prime Minister staff broke the rules, you weren't allowed to see your relatives. I missed out years, or a year of my, almost a year of my cousins' lives. We visit them normally every other week or every week. Couldn't do that. So sad times.
Does he agree with the listening to Wellingborough and Rushton campaign?
I agree with it. I agree with them profoundly and passionately, Mr. Speaker, and that's exactly what I'm going to do.
Catherine West.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister said that on the 13th of November 2020, the ABBA party he attended briefly, his defence was a job interview. Can he confirm he was only in his flat and he met Henry Newman to discuss a job? And can he confirm what the other special advisors were doing? Were they part of the job interview as well?
That's a good question. I think she's the one that set him up with these questions originally, months ago.
Mr. Speaker, that evening was extensively investigated to the best of my knowledge, and I don't...
Answer the goddamn question.
I don't believe I can improve on what Sue Gray has had to say.
So what were they doing there then? I don't think the Gray report even covers that. What were the other SPADs doing?
Tobias Elwood.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is a damning report about the absence of leadership focus.
He's not, as far as Tories go, he's not that bad. And by not that bad, I mean he's like, if I had a 0 to 10 on the bad scale, with 10 being the worst, he'd probably be a 7.
And discipline in Number 10, the one place where you expect to find those attributes in abundance. I made my point and my position very clear to the Prime Minister. He does not have my support. But a question I humbly put to my colleagues is, are you willing, day in and day out, to defend this behaviour publicly?
He's not the only MP. I think there was another one. I think it was at Harper or something like that. Where is he? This gentleman here, Mark Harper. He's even said like they have to give out the most ridiculous reasons to defend the Prime Minister. So you can see why people would be getting sick of it. You've got a Prime Minister who makes you argue against something, and then a few days or weeks later he'll U-turn and make you look stupid. That's his modus operandi, since he loves words from like hundreds of years. I forgot Latin words. I think it's Latin, modus operandi. But honestly, it's just ridiculous.
Can we continue to govern without distraction, given the erosion of the trust with the British people? And can we win the general election on this current trajectory? The question I place...
That's the only thing they care about, is winning the next general election. And that's why he's asking, can they win the next general election on this trajectory? That's the only thing they care about. They care about their seats first. Will they be an MP next time out? And then they care about, will the party win a general election? Britain has 5 to 6 million immigrants per 1,000 people. In Holland, it's 14. Germany's 12, France 10. We have the lowest immigration in Western Europe. Yeah, he's talking about crossings in the French or the English Channel. It's the mob way. Show your commitment by incriminating yourself before you become a made man. Yeah, it seems that way, to be honest.
To the Prime Ministers now. Mr. Speaker, I'm being heckled by my own people. If we cannot work out...
Mr. Speaker, I'm being heckled by my own people. Oh, that's great.
What we're going to do, then the broad church of the Conservative Party will lose the next general election. But my question to the Prime Minister is very clear on the question of leadership. Can he think of any other Prime Minister who would have allowed such a culture of indiscipline to take place under their watch? And if it did, would they not have resigned?
I mean, Theresa May wouldn't have. Theresa May would have told those people to go home. Even maybe David Cameron would have. I'm not sure about Dave. Gordon Brown would have told him to go home. Tony Blair, I don't know a lot about. John Major, probably the same. I think he's very unique in that sense that Johnson allowed this. Can you post the source of the data, please? Would really appreciate it. Are you talking about the totality of immigration there, Nicholas?
Mr. Speaker, I think to answer the question that he put to all of us on these benches, I think the answer is overwhelmingly and emphatically yes, we are going to go on and win the next general election, because we're going to get on with the job, Mr. Speaker.
I don't think you are, big man. I don't think you are. Genuinely, I don't think you're going to win the next general election.
Ed Davey.
Sir
Mr.
Davey.
Speaker, the Prime Minister says he's sorry, but he's only sorry he got caught.
We should have had the infamous I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. The greatest song of our time.
He didn't care then, as he parted during lockdown, when people couldn't see their dying loved ones. He didn't care last year, when he insisted that no rules had been broken. And he doesn't care now.
No, I think he's. I think that's Tobias Ellwood. I don't think he's. Like I said, as far as Tories go, you know, he's probably a 7 out of 10 on the bad scale. Johnson being a 10, the cabinet being 10s. Tobias Ellwood's probably a 7 on the pretty bad scale.
When families across our country are struggling to heat their homes, fill their cars and put feed on the table, with a cost of living
feed on the table
crisis that has only deepened while the Prime Minister has been scrambling to save his own skin. So, Mr. Speaker, can the Prime Minister look the British people in the eye and name one person, just one person?
This isn't Prime Minister's questions. This is like a separate thing. That's why Blackford only got one question. Just like Starmer only got one. PMQs was like earlier.
He cares about more than himself.
I mean, I would argue. Well, he could argue he cares about his son more than himself, like his current son, baby boy, Wilf, I think his name is.
Mr. Speaker, I can tell him that there are people in number 10 Downing Street, including me, who cared passionately about making sure that we had the PPE that we needed. We had the fastest.
He failed at the PPE thing. Failed really badly as well.
Vaccine rollout.
Didn't have the fastest vaccine rollout
in Europe, and that we protected this country from COVID, and that is what people were doing. And I may say that the abuse that has been directed at civil servants and officials.
What abuse has been directed at civil servants and officials? What? Where? Honestly, the reason why they're getting abused because of you, big boy.
Is, I think, wholly unwarranted.
What abuse?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. When I think of civil servants and advisors during that period, I think of the brilliant civil servants who helped move mountains to create the shielding programme within a matter of days. I think of the brilliant civil servants and advisors that got 90% of homeless people off the streets within days.
You think of the brilliant ones who were told to go with the... Yeah, I've got plus more in there. I think I can get away with that. Are you talking about the brilliant ones who had to operate the VIP lanes? The brilliant ones who had to set up Serco Test and Trace? I wouldn't be praising them too much, dog. But then again, it's the minister's fault, really.
Would my right honourable friend agree with me that these achievements and others should mean that nothing in this report is a stain upon the character
We'll go about 2 o'clock.
of the thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of civil servants, whether in Number 10, other government departments, or across the country, who helped steer this country through the pandemic. And secondly, difficult though this is to say for many, with a war in Europe, with an economic crisis.
We're not at war in Europe, and whoever the next Tory Prime Minister is would probably follow the same path as Johnson, which is arming Ukraine but not helping Ukrainian refugees.
With the challenges this country faces, is it not really true that it is now time to turn a page?
Oh, mate, we were... Let's not forget here, there were, when Gordon Brown was voted out of office, we were at wars with multiple different countries. We just had the Great Recession. So, maybe we should have been like, yo, let's keep Labour in charge. Let's turn a page on this stuff. Didn't happen, did it? Honestly, what a joke this man is. What a coincidence that generic yaps on about civil services and immediately after Johnson referenced in the previous question, which, by the way, was mentioned in the last question. Yeah, it seems like he's a plant question.
For this country, our politics and this House to move forwards.
But it's not though, is it? Because he was fined. He was found to have broken the law. He should go. He's claiming he inadvertently misled the House. He should go.
I agree with him absolutely passionately, Mr. Speaker. I think the best thing, I think we can study the report, we can draw the conclusions that we want. The best thing now for our country is to move forwards together, and that's what we're going to do.
Then do something then. Help sort the cost of living crisis out.
Dame Angela Riedel.
Mr. Speaker, we all understand, and the Prime Minister understands, that not being truthful on the floor of this House requires a resignation. My honourable friend, the member for Hornsey and Wood Green, asked the Prime Minister a point-blank question on the floor of this House when he was at that dispatch box. She asked him if he had been to a party on the 13th of November in 10 Downing Street. He said he hadn't and that no party had happened.
I would have went with gathering, but then again he would have got away with that because he will claim that he was at a work gathering.
There are 4 pictures of it.
Oh, finally. Someone's brought pictures.
There are 4 pictures of it, Mr. Speaker, featured in the Sue Gray report. Will the Prime Minister account now, on the floor of the House, for his answer to that very specific question?
Yes, of course, Mr. Speaker, and I tried to do it in what I said earlier on, and the answer is that it's part of my job to say thank you to people who work in government. That's what
You didn't do that for the birthday one, though, did you?
I was doing. I believed it was a work event, and indeed there has been no
What kind of work event has alcohol? I genuinely... Excuse me, I don't understand.
Issued to me as a result of my attendance at that event, because that is what I was doing.
Continue.
I'm amazed that the Met Police didn't find him over that, and I know the Good Law Project are taking the Met Police back to court over it anyways.
Mr. Speaker, I commend Sue Gray for the report, and I do understand why people are angry. Having looked at the pictures of the birthday party in the Cabinet Office, I think the opposition are going to be quite hard-pressed to explain why they have such moral outrage about that, but not about the late-night beers that happened just down there. However...
Again, they broke for lunch. He couldn't go to the hotel to eat, or for whatever reason. He couldn't get room service. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
However, one of the things I was very troubled by was the language that was used towards the custodian. Would the Prime Minister join with me now, and I'm sure the whole House would agree, the level of respect and gratitude that we have to every single cleaner and worker and all the people in the tea room that work in this place? Thank you, sir.
I thank her very, very much. And I agree.
I mean, it's a decent point about you shouldn't disrespect people, people that are working, that actually did work hard to try and provide like tea and whatever to people, but it's ridiculous.
Very much with what she
days. Why did I let
very, very much and I want whoever was responsible to apologise.
Tamanji Singh Desi.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I feel as if I have completely let down those who showered me with so much love. Why wasn't I by the bedside of my lovely grandmother during her final few days? Why did I let her die alone in that hospital? Why did I not attend the funeral of my uncle because of worries about government restrictions on numbers? And why did I not go to comfort my brother-in-law's father as he was dying in a Slough care home? Why, with all of this context, it is utterly hypocritical for those individuals who were preaching to us ad nauseum about patriotism, the flag, and the Queen, for those very people to then be having late-night parties, including 2 on the night before the Queen had to sit all alone during her husband's funeral when the country was in a state of national mourning. Absolutely shameless. So, Prime Minister, given that the Prime Minister is not going to do the right and honourable thing, does he agree with me that it is not the support and sympathy of the British people that is keeping him in power, the majority of whom want him to resign? It is the support and sympathy of those concerned...
Order! Order! I'm sorry, but it's meant to be a question, and also we don't normally bring monarch into proceedings. And I'm sure that the Prime Minister will have got the gist, and quite really, I understand the emotions behind it, but it's got to be short.
Oh, mate, come on, man. It's just, the speaker just pissed me off so much sometimes. He makes a great point, which is, he had to say goodbye to his loved ones. He couldn't do that in person. Some of them would have died alone. Some of them would have died with limited numbers. And he's saying, why did I do that when the Prime Minister and the people in Downing Street were breaking the rules? It's a good question.
What a Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'm very sorry for the honourable gentleman's loss, and he has a perfect right to speak with the passion that he does. All I can say is that I take full responsibility for what happened. I do, and we have made extensive changes.
John Barron.
You really have to make changes there, because they're not going to be drinking there as much, because now they can go back to bars and stuff. What a total donkey Hoyle is. That was really to the point. I mean, he was going to ask his question.
Mr. Speaker, I believe both leaders have a lot to answer for.
They really don't.
With regards to this issue. The British Army teaches you, or certainly believes at its very core, that you serve to lead, and you lead by example. Given the extent of rule-breaking in Number 10, does my right honourable friend believe that what he has said to the House since about there being no rule-breaking passed the test of reasonableness?
I think he's asking exactly the right question, and I understand why he asks it. But I've tried to give my answer to him and to the House, which is that I believe that I was attending work events. Those are the ones of which I had knowledge.
I mean, what kind of work events are those? And they have to be reasonable for work. It wasn't just about having a work event. It had to be reasonable. You'd have to justify it for work purposes. A leaving drinks do is not reasonable for work purposes.
And with the exception of what took place in the cabinet room in June of 2020, that view has been sustained by the investigation.
Janet Charry.
Speaker, neither I nor my Edinburgh South West constituents would wish to live in a state where the government of the day could influence the police in the exercise of their duty to investigate without fear or favour. So we're puzzled as to why the Prime Minister didn't receive questionnaires in respect of 3 gatherings where other people in Number 10 received questionnaires. And we're also puzzled as to why the ABBA party in the Prime Minister's flat has never been investigated either by Sue Gray or the Metropolitan Police. So can I ask the Prime Minister what can be done by
No worries, fact. Catch you later.
way of an independent investigation to assure me and my constituents that the Metropolitan Police have not been nobbled?
I mean, the thing with the Met Police is their investigation was a joke. Sue Gray clearly didn't go into enough of the events, but to be fair, she's a civil servant, not a detective.
Well, that would greatly surprise me, Mr. Speaker, but I think she should look more closely at Sue Gray's report, because I think she will find the answer she needs.
Michael Babrickan.
Mr. Speaker, I understand the outrage of people in Lichfield and Burntwood, and indeed the honourable gentleman opposite, who have lost loved ones. But I also understand, having been an employer, that attending an event where someone is leaving is considered to be a working event.
Is it reasonable, though? Was it reasonable for work purposes?
and my right honourable friend clearly got guidance that turned out to be wrong. So can he now explain how the appointment of a new permanent secretary at number 10 will make a difference in the future?
I thank him very much, and what we're doing is not only the structure of number 10 has changed, so there's more direct command and control for the whole building, which was a little bit unclear before. And so there is a new permanent secretary with direct responsibility for the whole office, as it were, hundreds and hundreds of people, as opposed to that function being nominally to be addressed by the principal private secretary. And the lines of, as Sue Gray said, the lines of command were not clear. Sue Gray.
Coulter. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. After months of shuffling around, prevarication and book passing, this report makes it absolutely clear that when the British public were taking those restrictions seriously, the Prime Minister was taking the British public for fools. That's why the Prime Minister and his government cannot now be taken seriously. Isn't it time he said goodbye so that the rest of us could say good riddance?
Mr. Speaker, I really don't think that the government can be blamed for the delay that he complains of. It took a long time for the Met to do their work. It was exhaustive, and I don't believe that
it really wasn't exhaustive. That's why they're being taken back to court again.
It sustains the conclusion that he has drawn. Not at all.
Aaron Bell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, when I asked the Prime Minister about Sue Gray's interim findings on the 31st of January, he asked me to wait for the inquiry report. He asked many members that day to do the same thing. Subsequently, he has asked the media to wait for the findings of the report, and he knows that many colleagues on these benches have told their constituents they're waiting for the inquiry report. So I was very surprised to read in the Times the intimation that he may have asked Sue Gray not to publish the report at all. Is there any truth to that suggestion, Prime Minister?
I mean, it seems like there is. He apparently asked Sue Gray not to publish the report because the police were going to deal with it, but we know the police didn't do a good job, so...
Mr. Speaker, what Sue Gray has published is entirely...
Oh, it's dodged the question.
Sue Gray, and it is a wholly independent report, Mr. Speaker.
He just dodged the question. He just dodged the question.
Mr. Speaker, the last time I asked the Prime Minister a question on this subject...
It's very different from PMQs. He's going between the parties. Quite interesting.
I said the problem with him, and I've got on with him over the years, is he is a serial offender. And even serial offenders, if they actually confess that they've done wrong and then repent for what they've done, they can actually be forgiven because they're mending their ways. I'm sorry, Mr. Speaker, but today's performance from the Prime Minister shows no real remorse, trying to shift the buck on other people, and I believe now, with all many faces I see on the other side, that he should now resign.
Yeah. Mr. Speaker, I've apologised, and I am, as I have said, deeply contrite about what happened. I take responsibility. We are...
I mean, the public will forget, so...
...affecting and have done a huge amount of change already.
...were interpreted in number 10. Does my right honourable friend agree that rules of such intrusiveness and rigidity must never again be imposed on the British people as a whole?
Anti-lockdown guy, sweetest guy.
I'm sure there are plenty of... Mr. Speaker, I think the answer to that question is contained in the Speaker, I think the...
Brendan McNeill.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. While he is still unwittingly a great asset for Scottish independence, the question everywhere, however, is how to goodness is he...
Wait, what? What did he say? Is there a captions button? No, I can't see one.
Angus Brendan McNeill.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. While he is still unwittingly a great asset for Scottish independence...
Funny, why is he still a great asset for Scottish independence?
The question everywhere, however, is how to goodness is he still Prime Minister of this current United Kingdom?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I think the answer to that question is contained in the the continued support of the people of the United Kingdom for our union. And
I don't support you, boy.
And despite everything that they are doing to try to overturn the democratic verdict of 2014, I don't believe that they will succeed.
Natalie Elfie.
Oh, sweet, there it is.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank my right honourable friend for his further apology and his explanation today, which is important for many of my constituents. Does he note paragraph 4 of page 36 of the Sougray report that says, there have been changes to the organisation and management of Downing Street and the Cabinet Office with the aim of creating clearer lines of leadership and accountability. And does he agree with her that these changes need to bed in and that the focus of our government must be laser-like in tackling the cost of living crisis that has come about as a result of the COVID pandemic and Ukraine, and that
Brexit.
this is the concern over and above.
You are sick and tired of being taken for fools.
Here we go, Chris Bryant.
And it simply doesn't. Excuse after it, Mr. Speaker. What a load of baloney. Excuse after excuse after excuse, and it simply doesn't wash, and it won't wash with the British public, who are sick and tired of being taken for fools. The truth is, the Prime Minister encouraged the gatherings. He attended the gatherings. He poured the drinks at the gatherings. And he even raised a toast at the gatherings, so he knew perfectly well that these gatherings had taken place. And the most despicable thing of all is that Sougray says she saw multiple examples of a lack of respect and poor treatment of security and cleaning staff because they knew what the rules meant, even if nobody else does. Does he show no contrition, no sense of shame that Downing Street under him has been a cesspit full of arrogant, entitled narcissists?
Okay.
Mr. Speaker, as I've said to the House already, I think that it is absolutely disgraceful in any circumstances to be rude to people who are helping you, and rude to staff, rude to custodians. It's intolerable.
Anymore. Jack Barrett.
Mr. Speaker, does my right honourable friend not agree we should focus on the real issues that matter to the British people, dealing with the cost of living, and also...
I'm going to be a bit mean here. He looks like the kind of guy who would get bullied in American high school in a film.
The issues with Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and given what happened in Durham, it's the only people left to apologise in this chamber are on those Labour benches, on the Labour front benches opposite.
Yeah, that dude's definitely getting stuffed in a locker.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I think those people in glass houses should not throw stones.
Bear responsibility for this culture, both political and official. For 168 days, he's used Sougray as a human shield against this duty. In this farce of a parliamentary system, it's now all down to Tory MPs, and there are not many left here, for them to grow a backbone and oust this moral vacuum of a Prime Minister. Will he spare them the trouble and resign?
No, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And can I thank Sougray for bringing this report to us today, and, of course, the Metropolitan Police for concluding their inquiries before that. But does the Prime Minister agree with me that investigations should be carried out without outside interference or statements towards the police or others? And would the Prime Minister now urge the Leader of the Opposition to respect this too with regards to Durham Constabulary?
I think Starmer's just said if he's found guilty, he will resign. That's not really directing, much comments to the Durham police, is it?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, that sounds like very sound advice.
Absul Khan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My mother, my father-in-law, and my mother-in-law are just 3 of the nearly 180,000 people who died from COVID-19 in Britain. The laws broken by the Prime Minister, the Chancellor, and others were not victimless crimes. They were not silly rules and meaningless red tape. They were designed to protect lives. Mr. Speaker, the doctors and nurses who cared for my relatives at North Manchester General Hospital were not clocking off for Wine Time Friday.
That time someone mentioned it.
So for the first time in his life, will the Prime Minister do the right thing and resign?
No, Mr. Speaker, but I want to assure him that I understand the reasons why he feels as he does, but I also want to say that everybody in Number 10 took the pandemic with the utmost seriousness. I agree.
That's why you had Wine Time Fridays.
For his loss, we were doing our best to contain a very, very difficult situation.
Wine Time Fridays.
Greg McKinley.
Speaker, my right honourable friend will be aware that I voted against much of this COVID legislation over the last couple of years because I felt a lot of it was pettifogging, ridiculous.
Because you're an idiot.
And unnecessary. I think an apology should be paid by this entire House to the British people to allow a lot of this nonsense legislation to be in place. Whereas I have great comfort and respect that the courts tend to come to the same conclusion for the same offences, it would seem that the legislation that we passed allowed an individual police force to come to different conclusions, and certainly different police forces. Because of the photos I've seen...
Because, you know, the issue is that the different areas of the country had different lockdown rules at different times, depending on which part of the year it was in.
I'd much rather have been at the curry and beer than the birthday party that the Prime Minister had in the Cabinet room.
What does that even mean? I was thinking a question.
Very much, and all I could say is that those matters are for the relevant forces.
What? What?
Mr. Speaker, I don't believe that the Prime Minister has any credibility left because my constituents tell me that they don't believe what he says. So I want to ask the Prime Minister about what I think to be the bare minimum in this situation. When it comes to the cleaning staff and the security staff in Number 10 treated with a lack of respect, has the Prime Minister personally apologised to them?
Question.
I thank her. This is the first that I've seen of the detailed criticisms of civil servants for that abuse. I've said that I think it's intolerable, and
he's not going to answer
I
the
will
question.
make sure that staff, custodians, cleaners who were treated disrespectfully get a proper apology. I've apologised to them today. I've apologised to them today already from this dispatch box.
Rarely in my 21 years in this House have I heard such utter drivel in what we've been presented to today. I've tried to find words to capture what the Prime Minister said. Disingenuous, delusional, slippery, self-serving, and I know I can't say dishonest in this place. No attempt at remorse, all somebody else's fault. Surely if he was half the man that he thinks he is, he would summon that self-respect and just go.
Yeah. I direct him to what I've already said.
Let's get real boring real quickly.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to quote the following to the Prime Minister and all those on his side. We've just heard one who want to suggest the COVID rules didn't matter. It's from palliative care doctor, Dr. Rachel Clark. To NHS staff, it was abundantly clear that the way you survive a pandemic is together. In 2020, collective compliance was all NHS patients had to protect them. Basic, selfless public decency mattered. Rules were hated but obeyed because we care about each other. And that glass of wine in the PM's hand, it's been thrown in the face of all of us. How does he reply to that?
Mr. Speaker, I wish things could have been handled better, and I wish things we got things right in Number 10 in the way that we didn't. And I apologise again for things that got wrong, but we've already changed the way we work, and I really think it's time that the country moved on.
When did you? Of course, the country move on from your rule breaking. What should we move on to? Your lack of action around the cost of living.
Prime Minister's previously stated that Partygate investigations would be fully complied with, but
Okay, we're going to go off in a couple of minutes because this is just...
Today there are reports that senior staff simply didn't answer the questionnaires and as a result have avoided being fined.
What? They just avoided signing them? Can you imagine you get the lightest possible thing right, just a questionnaire, and you just refuse to fill it out because that's how you avoid it? Honestly. Wow.
Can the Prime Minister therefore confirm whether all senior staff at Number 10, including himself, met their obligations and replied to the Metropolitan Police in full?
As she knows, those are a matter for the Met.
Surely he should have answered the bit where did he fill them out?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister said
I briefly attended such gatherings to thank them for their service, which I believe is one of the essential duties of leadership. He wouldn't need no leadership if it hit him in the face from where my constituents stand. And I'll tell him why. Because there's doctors who gave their lives. Their families weren't allowed to attend their funerals. I was on the phone when the trust I work with had to make decisions of leadership to separate people from not being able to see their dying relatives.
They also had to, make decisions about who got, access to ventilators and things like that. It's madness, honestly. It's like there's a scene in iRobot where the robot saves Will Smith instead of saving the little girl because he had a higher chance of surviving. Honestly, it's just wild. People had to make those sorts of decisions.
I was on the phone to somebody whilst they died, begging me to let them see him. That's what leadership is, when those were difficult decisions they had to make. When nurses couldn't go home and had to book into hotels so they didn't spread infections. So if he had an ounce of leadership, he'd resign, so why doesn't he? Yeah.
It's like a Sir Norman Fry apology. Every time Bojo opens his trap, I was placing my dispatch box on the table when a glass of Chardonnay accidentally ended up in my hand. You take that as a no, then yes, a no. This is like the victim impact statements. The problem is Johnson doesn't care.
I refer her to what I've already said.
Wow. Surely, come on, Speaker. Surely you can't do that.
Next man.
Oh my God.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister's credibility is like a slow puncture. He reinflates it occasionally, but isn't the truth? His party needs a new front wheel.
Mr. Speaker, I think they really need to ask a new question.
Kate Land.
I have to say,
See if
I'm
this is one
absolutely
good.
appalled by the behaviour of some members in this chamber today. They're refusing to accept responsibility.
Yep.
They're jeering and cheering and saying, let's move on. Well, can I tell you, Prime Minister, there's a young man in Blackburn who can't move on because due to a wart on his head, rather than getting an appointment with the doctor, he was asked to send in a picture. 3 months later, he was actually told he had stage 4 cancer. So the impact is widespread, the damage is long-lasting, and this young man cannot even get the treatment because they say they won't fund it. Does the Prime Minister feel no shame that he just totally trashed rules that he made, expected other people to live with? He wants to move on and other people are left with the consequences. Surely the Prime Minister must resign.
No, Mr. Speaker, we want to get on with addressing the COVID backlogs, which is what we're doing.
You're not, though, are you? You're really not. A lot of the money that you're trying to raise is to go through the debt that you've accrued because of test and trace and other things.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I sometimes wonder if the Prime Minister has a neck of pure brass. Does he understand and recognise the words honesty, integrity and accountability?
Liberty,
because from
fraternity.
my position, I don't think he does. Many members have spoken of personal things and personal tragedies they've gone through. The country needs a new leader. Yes, we need to move on, but we shouldn't need to lead on with you, Prime Minister. Will you now resign?
No.
Mr. Speaker, I think that I'm just going to repeat my previous answer.
Debbie Abrahams.
Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister's leadership, his behaviour drives the culture in our politics, but also in our country. And it also gives licence to others to behave in a similar matter. So if he is genuine in his apology, and he's not, will he firstly
Who said that?
ensure that the ministerial and members' codes have the Nolan principles incorporated into them and put them on the statute? And secondly, will he condemn those Oldham Conservative candidates who delivered toxic, racist, misogynistic leaflets during the recent local elections? His chairman...
First I've heard of this.
...has details of that.
First I've heard of that.
I'd be very happy to look at those details if she'll send them to me.
Carol Monaghan.
He didn't answer the question again. Not properly.
Right, let's pick somebody else. Dan Jarvis.
Serve to lead. That's the motto of the Royal Military Academy Sandhurst. And everybody serving in our armed forces knows that if the commanding officer of a unit had presided over the kind of shambles we'd seen in Downing Street, they would be discharged of their duties. Why is it different from the Prime Minister?
Who, this guy? Dan Jarvis is your MP? Or the lady we saw a minute ago? Debbie Abrahams. Which one's your one?
Is he referring to the vaccine programme, the PPE securing, or the fact that we came out of COVID faster than any other European country?
Did we come out of COVID faster than any European country? I swear the Scandinavian countries came out quicker than us. I'm sure they did. The most recent lockdown, I'm sure they came out quicker than us. He's a cool guy, you know. You should see if you can get him on your channel. He seems neat.
And okay, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
A lot of opposition MPs today.
That sickened me from the Sue Gray report was, and I quote, "I was made aware of multiple examples of a lack of respect and poor treatment of security and cleaning staff. The Prime Minister has made a public apology at the dispatch box, but when will he personally apologise to those hard-working cleaning staff who risked every day to ensure that everyone was kept safe?"
I thank you very much, and just to repeat what I said both earlier on and to the honourable lady opposite, when I've identified the custodians, the cleaners, the staff in question, of course I will talk to them myself.
Okay.
Thank you,
Mr. Speaker. One address, 20 months, 204 questionnaires, 345 documents, 510 photos, including the ones on page 38 onwards, of him raising a toast when he should be toast. And as a result of this, 126 fines, mostly to 83 junior staffers, while all the while the police were routinely fining...
Why did they ask? Why was it that junior ministers and junior staff were fined, but Boris Johnson wasn't? Surely that's a question.
People greater amounts than his 50 quid for far lesser offences. Doesn't this all point to a conclusion that not everyone is as equal under the law as each other these days?
I think that there's a criticism of the Metropolitan Police contained in what she's just said, which I don't agree with.
That police suck.
The problem with this report, Mr. Speaker, is the dates outlined so clearly reopen many of our wounds. But I'm going to ask the Prime Minister a question that has been asked earlier that he didn't answer, from the member for Newcastle under Lyme. When he met with Sue Gray recently this week, did he ask her not to publish this report?
No, Mr. Speaker, and what I can tell the honourable lady is that this is a wholly independent report,
it's written by an employee of the government, a civil servant.
The judgments contained in it are a matter for Sue Gray. I'm grateful to her.
For Sue, he keeps referring to her by her first name. Really weird. Really, really weird. It should have been a public inquiry, to be honest.
I'm grateful to her for what she has done, and I believe that it has been extreme. I think her interim report was...
Yeah, but Finland has someone competent in charge.
Extremely useful to the government in making the changes that we have.
Mr.
Speaker, when the years to come, when the Prime Minister reflects on his time as PM and in government, what does he think will be his proudest moment? Will it be breaking his own lockdown laws and being fined? Will it be misleading Parliament? Or will it be lying to the Queen and presiding over such a toxic environment that, as according to Sue Gray's report, staff in his office had a lively party the night before her husband's funeral?
That's madness, honestly.
Mr. Speaker, I will look back many years hence on from this period. I think the fastest vaccine rollout in Europe wasn't half bad.
Sorry, guys.
Being the first country anywhere in the world, Mr. Speaker, to put an approved vaccine in anybody's arms,
No, we weren't. I'm sure that was Israel that was faster than us.
To come out of COVID faster than any other European country. Those are already very considerable achievements, to say nothing of delivering...
and the Honourable Lady for Maidenhead, and I can tell him, when I was a senior civil servant, no such behaviour would have occurred. What is clear in the Sue Gray report, to me, is the number of comments of civil servants who knew they were doing something wrong. We seem to have got away with it. This is somewhat of a comms risk. People shouldn't be walking around waving bottles of wine in front of cameras, and it goes on. They knew they were doing something wrong. Did the Prime Minister, at any stage, at any of these events he was at, think he was doing
True that.
something wrong?
That's a good question.
I've tried to be clear with the House about that, and by the way, she talks about serving previous Prime Ministers. I thank her for her service, but I want to assure her I've never thrown a stapler.
He's got the old man case.
At anybody, or an ashtray, Mr. Speaker.
I'm in Newlands.
What's he talking about?
Right. Thank you much, Mr. Speaker.
All right, like I said, last question. I'm getting. Yeah, this is just killing me. I've got a video coming out in a couple of minutes, anyways, about something or other. Let's have a look.
Utterances on Partygate and
my
that
brain's just being
have
fried.
proven to be the fantasy we all
What's
knew
this
they
about?
were.
Oh, it's about Liz Truss.
Allegra Stratton resigned for merely joking about a party.
True that.
She's more integrity and a little finger than the Prime Minister could ever hope of possessing. This charlatan of a Prime Minister is without shame, without credibility, and without any hope of ever winning another election. So does he agree that he will sacrifice anyone or any institution, including his own party, to try and keep his ever-weakening grip on power?
Absolutely. That's why he's threatening to do an election this year. That's why he's threatening them with an election this year, because a lot of them would end up losing their seats, and he knows that. That's why he's doing this.
Mr. Speaker, I know why they want to remove me from office, because we're going to get on and win the next election, and that's the reality.
Let's hope
Lynn Brown.
Speaker, maybe the Prime Minister could help me again. If no rules were broken, what on earth did Martin Reynolds mean when he said we got away with it? Referring, of course, to the Bring Your Own Booze party on the 20th of May. What did he mean, we got away with it?
Good question.
Mr. Speaker, I can't give an exegesis of what's in the report.
Drag the brother through into a select committee then.
She can read the report for herself.
Mahabijah.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. When the Prime Minister says he's sorry, we know he's sorry for getting caught. One of my constituents, Louise, was in hospital in November 2020. A very elderly woman lay in the bed next to her, crying and begging for her family. She asked Louise to phone and ask them why they hadn't come to see her. The last thing she said to Louise was, "I won't be here in the morning." She died with a student nurse holding her hand, which haunts Louise to this day. Does the Prime Minister agree with Louise when she says he's a liar and must resign?
That's dark. That is so dark. She died alone. She asked why couldn't her family be there. I mean, that's terrifying. That's genuinely terrifying. And imagine being the student nurse in that situation as well. That's a really horrible situation to be in.
I have every sympathy for Louise and all those who have suffered. But no, Mr. Speaker, for the reasons I've given, I don't agree with what he's just said.
Stephen Farr.
That's dark.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister has presided over a culture of law-breaking, entitlement and privilege in Downing Street. He cannot credibly plead ignorance on that point. In his statement, he has sought to try to rationalise this by saying that the staff in Downing Street were working long, pressurised hours battling COVID. So what does he say to the thousands of doctors, nurses, care workers, the emergency services, cleaners, security staff, and indeed civil servants up and down the country who didn't have alcohol-fueled work events, parties or leaving dues?
Mr. Speaker, I simply say to them what I've said since the pandemic began, which is I thank them from the bottom of my heart.
Steve McCabe.
When I previously asked the Prime Minister to release the publicly funded photographs of these incidents, he declined because of the police investigation. Is there any conceivable reason, Mr. Speaker, why the full publicly funded catalogue of these incidents should not now be released so that the public can see and judge for themselves?
It's a good question.
Mr. Speaker, what I can tell him is that, to the best of my knowledge, I think all the evidence has been seen by Sue Gray and by the Metropolitan Police. There may be issues about what else can be released more generally, but he has.
You can blur out anyone else that's not you or a government minister.
I believe a representative. The public has, I think, a representative sample of the images.
No, that's not what he asked. That's not what he asked at all.
Yeah. 5 times in a 5-page report, the Prime Minister indicates that he takes responsibility.
All right, that's enough of this. I'm getting my brain is kind of going to mush, and I don't know more to do. Got a video about let's see, Liz Truss, and how she annoyed everyone regarding the protocol. So if you want to watch that one, please feel free to do so. But yeah, we're gonna call it here, because this is just this is getting painful, ladies and gentlemen. This is just, it's the same sorts of questions, the same sorts of answers, and my brain is struggling to handle it right now. But yeah, thanks everyone who joined and stayed for the stream. There's a video that's just come out now within the last couple of minutes, so if you haven't got notifications turned on, just go click on my channel and you should see the video. But yeah, I'm going to call it a day here. Thanks everyone for joining. Thanks Bowler Hat Man for stopping by. If you haven't subscribed to his channel, he's alright. And I'll catch you guys next time. Boom.